Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's virtual conference, Engage, Enrich, Enhance, Rebuilding the Foundation of Hospitality and Tourism During COVID-19. My name is Courtney Stanley, and I am your event MC for today. I'm a former student of Dr. Lorie Tuma, and I'm so proud to have had planned and now launched this virtual conference for you all. I'm a keynote speaker, a podcaster, and a career coach with a passion for mentoring students and young professionals. So building this experience for all of you has been a true pleasure. We have some really incredible speakers lined up to present their insights and ideas for you today. But first, let's go through a couple of housekeeping items so that we're all feeling good and ready for the day. So as you may have noticed, your microphone is muted and your camera is off. We want to encourage you to engage in today's conference, ask questions, and connect with other attendees, so please take a moment to check these few things out. First of all, there is an official event hashtag. We encourage you to share your thoughts and ideas on Twitter, on Instagram, and on any other channel that you're using with the hashtag #FutureOfHTM. HTM is Hospitality and Tourism Management, by the way. Secondly, if you're joining this conference from your laptop, you'll notice that there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. This is where you can type in questions you have for each speaker. You can also click on the thumbs up icon to upvote on questions other people have submitted, and this will push those questions with the most votes to the top of the list, prioritizing those questions to be asked during our Q&A sessions with each speaker. You'll also notice that there's a chat box at the bottom of your screen. This is where you can chat with other attendees one-on-one, or you can chat with the whole audience. At the top right corner of your screen, you will see the words Gallery View or Speaker View. You want to make sure that it says Gallery View, which means that you're in fact in Speaker View, which is a little confusing, but I'll explain more. So that means that my face as the speaker right now is taking up your entire screen because I'm the current speaker. So again, make sure in the upper right-hand corner of your screen that it says Gallery View. If it doesn't, you can click it to change viewing options. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce my former professor and very, very good friend, Dr. Lorie Tuma. Lorie, are you here with us? I'm going to ask you to join us via video and go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, Courtney, and hi, guys. My name is Dr. Lorie Tuma, and I'm an assistant professor at Grand Valley State University. I teach in the Department of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and I conduct research on teaching with social media and outdoor recreation and experiential learning. I'm so excited about today's event and the fact that you have decided to join us from all over the country and from various parts of the world. This is really just incredible. I want to tell you how this event evolved. Early in March, when COVID-19 started to spread throughout the United States, I realized that it was very possible that my students might be asked to transition from face-to-face classes to an online format. And I was immediately concerned about this because not all students like online classes. So I approached the Grand Valley State University faculty teaching and applied for a grant, an innovative teaching grant. I had this grand idea that I was going to hook up my little Outback camper from New Camp, and I was going to bring the classroom to the students. Well, it was a great idea, but a few days later, social distancing, then I quickly realized, well, I needed to pull the grant. So a few days after that, I received an email from the chair of the grant committee explaining that they had reviewed the grant and they saw merit in it. So they decided to award the funds and just asked me to do something creative during this time. And so here we are. You know, it is really hard to believe that just a few weeks ago, we were in the classroom and the coronavirus was just something we heard about on the news. And now we are in full-blown mitigation, trying to find our way through this overwhelming and sometimes frustrating experience. However, given the challenges, one thing we have learned to do is connect. With the use of technology, we are finding ways to reach out to friends, old and new, to changes in the workplace. And we are attempting to create still new experiences for people and somehow make them feel like they are connected. And it is working. We are also revisiting some of the people we have known through the years, and we're collaborating, thinking of ways in which we can contribute to the better good. And we're asking them if they want to jump in and create some really fun experiences. This conference today, this virtual event, is the result of one of those creative adventures and a relationship I have maintained with a very special former student. I met Courtney Stanley when she was one of my students at Central Michigan University. And now she's your MC today. And when I need help, she is the person that I reach out to. She has come through for me every single time. And today, she has worked tirelessly in creating this film. She's actually called upon the people she knows, and she's asked them to help her bring to you the message we feel you need to hear. The message about the importance of engaging in new experiences, enriching your knowledge about the industry, and enhancing your relationships. So ultimately, I am very happy to tell you that today, you're in very good hands, ours. I hope you'll grab coffee, sit back, and enjoy the amazing and influential speakers we have lined up for you today. Each person was specifically and deliberately chosen for their expertise in the hospitality, tourism, and event industry, and ability to connect with you. I'm excited that you're here. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit in on what we feel will be a monumental, game-changing experience and an impactful personal and professional strategy for you to use as we together rebuild our industry.
Seats are empty. The world waits. When it's safe, people will return. When they do, we, 10 million meeting and event professionals, will be there, connecting people, growing businesses, strengthening communities. Meetings mean business.
Back to you, Courtney.
Thanks, Lorie. Today is going to be a lot of fun. And before we launch into our awesome speaker lineup that we have planned for you, we want to know a little bit more about you, our fantastic audience. So let's find out where all of you are from. We are going to push out a couple of quick polls here, and you should see it pop up on your screen now. So please go ahead and submit your answer, and we'll find out a little bit more about you. We will give you a few seconds to fill out your answer. And it looks like we've got lots of Midwesterners, which I'm not surprised to see. Dr. Lorie Tuma teaches in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so I'm sure she's got a lot of friends and supporters that are excited to join us today. We've got some West Coast friends here too, which is super cool. Some friends from the South. Lorie used to teach at University of Alabama, so I'm sure she's got some friends joining us from there too. Got some East Coast people. We have a few Canadians. Shout out to the Canadians. It's great to see you guys here. And it looks like we've got a couple people from Central, South America, and Europe too, and other. So clearly there is a category that we're missing here. Okay, cool. Well, that's great. It looks like we've got people from all over the map here, which is really, really cool. So let's go on to our second poll, and let's find out what type of people we have here today. Are you a student? Are you a young professional? Are you faculty? Or are you a special guest? So we will go ahead and get that second poll up in just a second here. There we go. So you should have seen that second poll pop up on your screen. Man, you guys are fast with your clicking. Okay, cool. So we're fighting between student and young professionals here. We've got a battle going on, which is super fun. We've got almost 50% students. We've got almost 40% young professionals. That's really cool. Some faculty members. Okay, the student numbers are still bumping up. So are the young professionals. And we've got a handful of people that don't fall into those traditional categories for today's webinar. Very, very cool. Okay, so we've got one more poll for you, and this one, in my opinion, is by far the most important. So the last question that we have for you is about pizza. So do you think that pizza or pineapple actually belongs on pizza? This is a very divisive question. I know people have very strong opinions about this. I have my own opinion, which I'll share at the end. I'm not going to vote now. So let's battle it out and see what happens. So are you all about that salty sweet life? Do you think that it's a travesty for fruit to belong on pizza? Or have you never tried it, which I think is the biggest tragedy of all? Okay, so we've got, looks like we've got over, wow, we've got almost 300 votes in, which is super cool. Okay, so it looks like the majority of you are about that salty sweet life, which, I mean, the people have spoken, and I can't argue with the people. I'm a big fan of pineapple on my pizza. Super cool. Okay, so let's just take a moment here and let's introduce ourselves. So what I'm going to have you do is go ahead to the bottom of your screen and click on the chat box. And I just want you to tell us your first and last name, where are you zooming in from today, and what would your dream event to attend be? So maybe not to plan, maybe this is your moment to sit back and be treated. What's that dream event that you would want to attend? So again, go ahead and open up the chat box and tell the entire group who you are, where you live, and what your dream event would be to attend. So we'll give you a few minutes to go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna take a little look at the chat box and see what some of your answers are. Let's take a look here. Let's see who comes up with the craziest answer. Oh, cool. We've got someone joining us from the Philippines. That's awesome. Holy cow. These are some really great answers. Oh, yes. The Rachel Hollis event. I saw that. I know Lorie Tuma and I have talked about going to that event and doing the whole VIP package, going backstage. We've got some Michiganders joining us today. Lots of Michiganders. Shout out to my fellow Mitten people. Okay, all right. Wow. I'm going to have to scroll back and look at these answers. Coachella, I see that. I definitely want to go to Coachella for sure. The Oscars, yep, I had dreams of planning the Oscars. Someday I plan to attend. CMA Awards, I've actually been to those. So whoever that was, your name just flew by. Feel free to get in touch with me and I can connect you with some people at the Country Music Association. Awesome. These answers are still flying in, so I'm going to give you guys a couple extra seconds here. Again, entering in your first and last name, where are you zooming in from, and what would your dream event be to attend? Lots of people saying the Olympics. I actually was pretty surprised to see the Olympics were rescheduled so quickly for next year, and super excited for it too. So that'll be a great way to reunite the world after our global quarantine ends. Okay. Lots of really cool events. I love it. So, so cool. All right, very cool. So I think what we're going to do here is we are actually going to dive in to our first speaker. So we've got Shelly here, Shelly Williams. She's here nice and early, which I love to see. And she's got a lot of information for you. So I think we're going to kick her off a little bit early here and get her started with her presentation. So Shelly, I'm going to ask that you join us on camera and go ahead and unmute yourself. And then we will get started, and I would love to introduce you. There she is. Hey, Shelly.
Hi there. How are you, everybody?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning?
Well, you know what? I got to get up and do my hair and put on makeup, and I am wearing pants. This is good.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, I definitely have not been wearing pants every day. So today is a special day. I will tell you that. And Shelly, where are you joining us from today?
Today I'm at my home in Daytona Beach, Florida. Thanks for asking. And pineapple, absolutely. That's my thing.
Yes, all about that salty sweet life. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I've got some friends, even my boyfriend is really passionate about fruit not belonging on pizza. And I'm like, what? You're missing out on this great experience. Well, Shelly, it's great to have you here today. And you guys, I am so excited for you to hear from Shelly Williams because she is a legend in the hospitality and events industry. She's a boss. She's been a mentor and a real inspiration to me over the past 5 to 10 years. So I'm super excited to have Shelly here, not just to hear from her as someone that I truly respect, but to hear all of the updates that she's going to give us today on the industry and what's happening in this world and in our community. So Shelly, I would love to do a special introduction for you, and then I will give you the floor. So audience, please give a warm virtual welcome to Shelly Williams. Feel free to say hello in the chat box. And remember, please ask your questions in the Q&A box and we'll go through those at the very end. And don't forget to upvote on the questions. The ones with the most votes are the ones that are going to get asked. So make sure you participate. All right, here we go. So Shelley is the Vice President of Sales at Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Atlantic City, who oversees cash strategies, meetings, and hotel sales. Previously, as the National Director of Sales for Caesars Entertainment, Shelley oversaw the sales efforts for over 26 properties nationally, which consisted of hotels, casinos, and convention centers across the United States. Shelley joined the industry and began her hospitality career overseas in Uruguay, South America, as a corporate meeting planner. When relocating back to her native country of Canada, shout out to the Canadians, she joined the University of Windsor as department head for hospitality services and later moved into traditional supplier hospitality sector with Westmont Hospitality. Shelley oversaw a multi-branded portfolio for multiple hotel chains, including Hilton, Radisson, Choice, Wyndham, and Marriott. Shelley was enamored by big business, thought leadership, and the gaming industry, which led her to become the opening sales director for Caesars Entertainment's Canadian expansion, Canada's largest casino convention resort in Windsor, Ontario. Shelley was then tagged by the U.S. corporate offices to lead the Caesars Entertainment's regional portfolio of hotels, meeting, and convention sales division in the U.S. During Shelley's tenure for 13 years with Caesars Entertainment, her leadership, progressive involvement, and engagement in the industry that she served was always very important to her. Shelley was awarded the Award of Excellence for Leadership from Caesars Entertainment for her sales and strategy contributions to the opening expansion of the Harrah's Waterfront Conference Center in Atlantic City in 2016. In 2017, she was recognized by Smart Meetings magazine as one of the top 100 women in the meetings and events industry as an industry leader. Audience, please remember to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask Shelley questions and vote on those questions you want to be asked. We'll do that Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Shelley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That's a great introduction. Thank you very much. I'm blushing and it's hot in here. I'm in Daytona. I don't know where the weather is in your sense, but if there was an event I wanted to go to, it'd probably be Burning Man. So just so you know. All right, guys, here we are. Welcome to my day 43 of quarantine. It's a little crazy after day 30. Not sure exactly where you are in that journey, but it's Thursday, just so we all know. Yes, I'm working from home. Yes, I'm wearing pants, I'm drinking coffee, and it is not wine. So this is our new reality. So I want to make sure that we're all kind of being open and free and understanding kind of where today. Throughout my time in this amazing industry, I've been able to kind of see the ups and downs in a different lens, and fortunate or unfortunate, I found myself in plenty of positions where I was simply uncomfortable. And I'm sure that's how you're feeling today. I'm in some sort of unsteady situation, personal, professional, and then it's allowed me to deep dive and see what I see today, but sometimes from a very different lens. That's something that has given me those opportunities to kind of move into different opportunity sectors. My leadership mantra, and I think it's important as we kind of deep dive into the discussion we're going to have today is, kind of where do I sit? Where do I come from? And so for me, the biggest thing was I'm always learning to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And the reason I think this is from that uncomfortable place becomes that creativity, that innovation, and oftentimes leadership. But by no economics or health, or in any topic for that matter, just my business and professional acumen has brought me here to explore and hope that I inspire you to think differently about what's going on today, because it is really unprecedented. I'm sure you've heard that term, but I'm privileged to speak to you here today. We're going to talk about for 20 minutes. I'm going to go through kind of a couple scenarios, really different and interesting way. It's new material for me, so I hope you enjoy it. So for a second, let's mute that media that we all hear, whether it's social, whether it's your news channels, whether it's your multi-screens that you're living in today. Release the FOMO anxiety, because we know we can't be anywhere else but here right now. And let's ponder the outcome that we really like. Okay, so let's begin. The time the world shifted and how will you do it? All right, we're going to talk about it in a fairy tale, science fiction, and biography perspective. And so why is this time so unprecedented? Maybe it's a little unusual. It's scary, but for me, it's pretty exciting because we still do not know the ending, right? And so we're living in a fairy tale that usually there's a happily ever after. In a sci-fi, kind of you're on the roller coaster, you're not really sure. And then in a biography, you usually know the person's as the ending in their legacy, but you're reading through it and taking that journey with them. So how will this end? Will this be a happily be? The world will cease to exist as we know it, or will we be forced or fined by some disobedience to a certain villain? So a little bit about me. So I grew up as a serial traveler. My parents, 70s, were not your usual, let's take the kids on a vacation and go to a beach resort or Mexico or Florida. We went to Nicaragua in the height of a dictatorship. My dad was always in search of opportunities. We always went to third world countries and places that probably were not even safe, but we went regardless. We were that tourist. We were that, and currency, language, social classes, we were experimented on and with, and we often found ourselves in unusual circumstances. I remember once when I was 13, I'm in a business deal with my dad trying to sell garbage trucks to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Not sure how I got there, but somehow it makes me understand how I got here today. So the world was my classroom from a travel perspective, and it's probably what drove me now and how I see the situations in a different lens, because it is pretty scary out there. Because of those experiences, I'm fortunate, and I'm also lived internationally as an adult and start my career globally, which helps me get that comfortable uncomfortableness. My business career started in an unsafe, untrusted, politically charged economy, and it was often at the brinks of collapse, usually had existential threats, and it provided me that opportunity to never get comfortable, always adapt to new cultures and languages, and help me a way to understand what the hell was going on, who was in charge, and how can I get through it. So as a social being, I'm curious, I'm ambitious, I'm driven, and I'm deliberately transparent with the why. That's my code of conduct. So I studied in Ottawa, Canada, first to pursue an international politics degree. And I was encouraged by a great journalism professor to intersect my business insights with that politics. And alas, here I have an international degree. So I've worked with companies and a lot of times that I was undervalued but overcompensated, and often the reverse. I was overcompensated and undervalued, or overvalued and undercompensated. That happens, particularly in the economies that we're going to see here in the future. So when we're thinking and evaluating today's scenario, where we are and if we're going to cover, I want to walk with you a popular foolproof theme, okay? So businesses fail and economies fail for planning and preparation on a crisis for lack of collaboration with their leaders, okay? So I'm going to take that into the themes of a fairy tale. There's a problem. We find the characters to fix it. They're great. Usually they're green, they're tall, they're kind of crazy. They usually work together with talking animals, some come to life object, and we always live happily ever after. All right, so that's that fairy tale. And believe it or not, I'm going to tell you about the fairy tale that we existed in. In a sci-fi movie, usually there's a dominant power struggle, and there's an invention or a quick fix that you can solve with that power struggle. There's that good and evil, and it's a journey and race to save the planet. That also exists today. And then there's that biography that you want to sit and listen to, and it explores the inner depth of people and problems, and it usually a reflection of the current situation that will provide us that wisdom to get through. But there's always more to do. So those are those three themes, constant and true. We've known about them, we've read about them, we've probably been in them. And how does it apply to today? So let's get to the situation and ensure we know what the facts are. So people are calling this COVID-19 crisis. Well, let's define that for a second. Is it really a crisis? So a personal crisis is a stressful time in an individual's life when they experience a breakdown or a disruption of their usual norm and activities. Holy smokes, that is absolutely a personal crisis. Everyone's living one. We're all stuck at home. We really want to do other things, but we can't. And then there you have the public crisis. And a public crisis is sometimes that's something that causes that long-term damage to a reputation or services to the organization or stakeholder. And I'm not necessarily sure that we're there yet. So we definitely have this global pandemic. It's a health pandemic, but are we in a crisis? And sometimes we have to understand how we get into crises and how we get out of crises. All right, so let's react to the real situation. And this is where it gets real. So the COVID-19, it's a health pandemic. The difference is important because it started as an epidemic, and it started as an epidemic in China. And there have been many more. There have been SARS, the flu, the N1 swine flu. There's been plenty of them. But I think what's important to understand how this became a pandemic is because of its fast spread, its contagion, and we don't understand it or know how to control it. and it becomes without an immunity, right? And so that changes and shifts our fear factors. It shifts the way we feel about certain situations, and then we put them into this context of our popular themes, okay? I want to just jump back a second and understand why Wuhan, China is really significant. And Wuhan, China is significant because Wuhan, China is like the Chicago for the United States. It has 11 million people. It's commercial and a manufacturing hub in central China. So I'm not sure how many of you have traveled to China. I have, but I have to tell you, don't fear, they're in good shape. And we're gonna get through this okay. Its GDP is 22.5 billion in 2018. Significant. New York City is 18 million. There's big contrast in the one's given us the answers yet. So let's understand, is this really a fairy tale that we've lived in and heading into that science fiction reality? So this is now globally inflicted disaster, right? So the world's economies are being affected in the attempt to flatten the, okay, so what really happened? And let's go through chronologically that time. March 12, 2020, American shuts down, but it doesn't shut down because of what I think all of us are thinking. It shut down to protect the healthcare and to control the pandemic, right? That's its mechanism. That's what it had. And it did this because on March 11th, the day before, the WHO declared that it was a global pandemic, all right? So the mechanisms of our economy, hey, guess what? We've got a situation. We're going to need to make sure that this all works to the best of our advantage. Versus what we're going to do, we're going to declare a state of emergency. Now, a state of emergency means that the governments can now act to help out other places in their forms of government, right? So they can transfer funds. This starts a house of cards concepts, right, in the United States. So it imposes strict travel bans to those countries that have outbreaks. We start to repatriate American citizens from other countries. We're sending planes. We're creating a little bit of this fear factor. Sports no longer able to attend. You've got a lot of things going on, right? So in March 15th, all of a sudden the United States decides 15 days to slow the spread. March 29th, it becomes 30 days to slow the spread. Governors implement a stay-at-home order, not as a federal order, but as they see the severity of their own states, okay? Borders close, people that we travel back and forth like it's just a toll road. The airline routes were decimated. Airline travel declines 97%. RevPAR over a year within that same week declines 64%. The stock market, largest point plunges March 12th to March 16th. This brings us to the road. So this was a 2-week shutdown, and what does that mean to our economy? And how can we recover? How long will we be in this self-inflicted reality? All right, so let's examine this fork in the road. Will it lead us to a lizard or a dragon? Not necessarily sure, right? They say we need to look at the past and answers for the future. They say the cure cannot be worse than the disease. However, we're at unprecedented, uncharted, and full of speculative times. So I'll repeat those themes once again, so we know and we can determine the route that we need to go on. Businesses fail, economies fail due to improper planning and preparation, lack of collaboration with the right leaders. In every fairy tale, there's a problem. We find the character to fix it. We work together sometimes with talking animals and sometimes come to life objects, but we live happily ever. In a sci-fi movie, we find the dominant power struggle. There's a crazy cool invention. There's a quick fix. There's the good and the evil. And our biography explores the inner depths of people and problems, usually an inflection or reflection point. Where are we today? Friends, this is not Alice's Tea Party. Hate to tell you. And winter of Frozen is definitely winning. This is not the red pill, blue pill alternative reality. The situation of the Matrix, nor is there kryptonite to save or heal the planet, Or is there an anti-vaccine or cure and disease that is stored in some mountain laboratory? We have leaders like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, Bill Gates, and the courageous medical and frontline workers that are showing human compassion every day through working tirelessly through this pandemic to provide the direction and yet hope with no answers. This becomes very scary. We're often told that the history and experience from the past, yet in this case, it's not necessarily a good predictor. That most ran down the clock. The asteroid is coming. The paparazzi have prevailed. So it's not the economic shutdown of 2008 and 9. It's not the 9/11 tourism tax. It's not deep depression, nor is this the Spanish flu. Self-inflicted economy to protect the vulnerable that has lasted past its predictions. So we have predictions from health experts, and now it's a time to dig a little bit deeper into that ever feeling of that uncomfortable, creativity, that inspiration, and that innovation. You need to use your personal accountability and that personal responsibility to be safe and yet keep them moving, and that's how we're going to get into recovery. When we listen to false reports and speculation, sometimes we just don't analyze the data and we fear the unknown. We speculate and cause confusion, compromising opportunities and the fear of those good results. So swine flu, it infected 58 million people. 575 died between 2009 and 2010 from the swine flu. We were tracking, we were tracing, we were detecting. However, it didn't seem to come to the same level of our fairy tale or science fiction reality that we're seeing today. Was it because, and this is a question that I'll ask you, was it because we were also in a financial crisis? Did we live happily ever after? 10 years later, we see ourselves in almost a similar scenario. I don't want to compare because they're very different situations and they're two very different things. However, if we looked under the lens of our popular theme, living through a fairy tale and a science fiction reality, parallels that we possibly could be able to draw. So now we're in a sci-fi reality where we're looking for that testing, tracking, and tracing of the COVID to help us get through this, right? That has all put us into a very interesting place where we need to kind of understand where we're going. So let's talk about our fairy tale real quick. Boy, oh boy, we were in the hospitality travel industry. We were having a tea party. I tell you, the punch was spiked. It was Alice in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter was sitting beside me. If you were reading a book of Dr. Seuss, perhaps, the title was, "Oh, the Places You Will Go." If you were on Disney Plus and watching a movie, you're singing, right? Pocahontas is all over it. So we lived in a world, and a lot of times in the Chinese version of A Great Life by Women was explained as cash, credit cards, condos, cars, and a cook. Okay. Today, there are 16.4 million hotel rooms in the world that sit empty. China is home of the most hotels in the world with 4,169, and they're just recently coming out of this COVID crisis. So we at Hardrock Hotels have hotels in 76 countries in the world. And I can tell you our property in Shenzhen, China sits with 16% occupancy today. It was previously closed. So there is signs of recovery. It's probably just not at the pace or the patience that we would want to see a recovery. So all the terms in hospitality terms, RevPAR, TrevPAR, GoPAR, all of those were experiencing global highs. We were in a tea party with spiked punch. Okay, these are all very important for the social norms to understand triggers and benchmarks in the hospitality industry, because it's going to really be affected by more of the social distancing, not really the economic shutdown. Okay, the U.S. hotel occupancy was at an all-time high. All right, we were 66% nationally. Globally, it was high, but we were predicted to remain flat through 2020. Hotel construction was at an all-time high. We had 15,000 projects going on all at the same time through 2020. 2.5 million hotel rooms were going to be added to our inventory. Now, these were driven by US and China. These are the largest economies in the world. And so I think we have to pause for a second and understand, how is it being affected by us? Where is it going to affect us most? So Disney was expanding for a first time in a very long time with the Star Wars and the Marvel expansions. They were creating all-inclusive experiences. Entertainment tickets and live events were so engagement. People were just going out. New construction up everywhere. There were new brand experiences, and I think this is really interesting. Hard Rock International launched the Reverb Hotel in Atlanta. It was an experience for music goers. We have Earth Hotels over in the Emirates that are putting up container hotels, a 128 key container hotel for the experience to live in a box. Very profitable. We have pod hotels that are off the side of a mountain in Peru that you can zip line to the bathroom. These are all experiences that we wanted, we could curate, and we could have. This was a great time. So they traveled domestically and globally. We traveled a lot. And who was the people traveling? Americans were fueling the travel economy. We had the time to travel. We had the money to travel, the engagement, and that social activity. So we found time. We were conscious about time and lifestyles and families. We worked from home. We were balanced 4-day work week. We were life skilling and upskilling. And you had a job if you wanted one, but you could also be an entrepreneur. Wages were higher and you could get a seat at the table. It will be up to us for recovery. And I think that's what's important. So the recommendations that I'm bringing to you today is you can see all of the things that are going on, and it appears that it could be a fairy tale and it appears that it could be a science fiction movie, but there's really the accountability of each and all of us to understand that the only people that travel are the ones that are really us. So those figures point back at you. Domestic leisure travel in the US alone was at 85%. That's a big number. This is key to recovery, and this is what we can do. So if you keep traveling and if you keep meeting, you keep booking, we will get out of this from a recovery. But there's some issues to that, and I understand. There's a safety and security concern. I understand. However, what's more fearful is also the economy. 2.3 billion trips were leisure-oriented, and business travel had 464 million trips, and it was growing at a 1% per year. Travel globally was 10 points of the global GDP. This travel industry, we were going. We were fast, we were moving, and people enjoyed it. This is what fuels the supply chain of our hospitality industry. And the saying is going to be, if it's up to me, it will be. And so live that motto, keep traveling. If it's not us, who will? So the sci-fi lesson to other than the fairy tale lesson where it was a happily ever after is there's pent-up demand and an imprisoned population seeks liberty. So a famous quote from a movie. Therefore, let's recover that demand and offer that supply. So people long for those experiences and those social interactions. And I believe there is recovery if you think about it in those terms. So it's us to take that personal social accountability and restart that industry. The super economies that lead this way, this is the production from the past that we can have. It's always been this way. The US and China have always led the global GDP. They're our largest economies in the world. They make up 53% of the GDP. So construction, manufacturing, these industries will recover simply because their workforces are not necessarily resilient or dominant to the social distancing rules that we're going to have. They're going to be very work-skilled, resilient. That's 20% of the GDP. There's recession-proof industries also that are manufacturing, there's government, business industries, real estate, and financial. All of these, they were doing really well. We shut down, we put a pause on it, but they weren't doing poorly. What we're going to see is when they come over with good leadership. Agriculture will be strong. The healthcare will be strong. All of these tell us that recovery is possible. So once the economy is unprisoned in that society, the stay-at-home orders are lifted, charges are gone, and people return to work, the fog will lift. And the sunshine will come in, and things may return to somewhat normal. So when you think about in that sci-fi fit how they dealt with these crises, and you had the villains, and there's a concept of the Matrix, right? And I'm not sure if you've met that, or ever seen that movie, but it's on the concept of your decisions to make of your alternative realities. And it seems unreal, and you often question, did it really happen once you're through it? And it happened so fast. What do I do now? Who's doing what? And how can I get out of this matrix, right? And so we have decisions to make. Is it the blue pill, red pill? And the 5 steps to that crisis is you started in denial, right? It's not that big of a deal. Then get over it. Whose problem is it? And that happened between December and January for us. And it happened globally. It's not just only domestically. Then we started to contain it. Who needs to deal with it? How we're going to deal with it? What are we going to do? We're going to shut down borders. We're going to limit travel. We're going to put in a travel ban. But it needed to go a little bit further. And then we got into the third step of that crisis management in a sci-fi film where we're framing the problem. And you've got the goods and the evils, and they're fighting back and forth, and they're shaming and they're blaming, and they're trying to understand, how did we get here in the first place, right? And that happened between March and April. And then you have the assignment. The assignment is, okay, we're going to get through this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have an event. We're going to look for an invention, or we're going to lock down the country, make sure the pandemic goes away, and then we'll be out of it. And this is happening in March and April. So we're living in those times right now in that sci-fi movie. You're managing the crisis, right? So we've had the 15 days to the 30 days to recovery, and we have the reopening happening now, April, May, and June. And we have those phases that are coming. And so that recovery is coming, but nobody ever intended that this was going to be a 2-month shutdown. I think when we got into this, everybody believed it was that 15 days to slow the spread. So let's understand a little bit the large GDP producers in China and the US and the recovery. So they lead world in GDP recovery. Domestically, our economy pushes in this way. Their economy is pushing that same way. There's 5 countries, and those are the ones we need to look out for. And those 5 countries lead in 53% of the GDP, and they propulse the supply and demand chains of our economy, but they also make sure that we're moving forward. So that's US, China, Japan, Germany, and India. Okay, 53% of the GDP. So what we want in those countries is to get them going, get them moving, make them feel safe, make them feel secure. Okay, we need to analyze the industries in big GDP producers and ensure they're in recovery recession proof. Okay, there's a lot of indications there that when the economy is open and people feel safe and protected and they're getting a paycheck again, we have amnesia. People are going to go back to doing the same things they did before. There may be a certain pause and there may be some certain hesitation to the activities they have, but shortly you should see a pretty quick recovery, not a U recovery, but a V recovery moving forward. So that's when you see a very spike or a plunge down and a plunge up instead of it kind of belling through the problem. So if the US economy has a high domestic travel, and it's up to us to do it, and we're in the travel industry and we know this, the activities and the accountability that we have is really to us. We should be doing these things. We should be traveling. We should be going to conferences. We should be continuing to book and not canceling anything. But we need to make sure that big manufacturing industries are doing the same. The manufacturer will produce and they will overproduce for full employment because they're to do so, okay? Will China and Germany follow suit in the same stimulus type of activity? Well, they may not do it in the same forms of government because their government systems and organizations may not be as rich, but they're going to equal that supply-demand equation. And I'll tell you, the biggest companies in the world are Amazon, eBay, and Walmart, and we manufacture out of China and India for a lot of the products that go to those 3 distributors. The supply will equal the demand. All right. And so that gives us good hope that there's recovery. Okay. So in this section, there's a lot to be written, right? There's a lot of opportunity. A biography explores those inner depths of those problems, and there's a lot of players out there. And usually it's an inflection or the reflection of that current situation to solve the problem. So there are going to be books that are going to be written about this, the leaders and the heroes. There's a legacy to be written here about a recovery. But importantly, how will you play a part there? Will you recover all goodness business strategies? What pace? Are you going to be patient? And who's leading them is going to be ever more important. So entering the workforce or as part of this economy right now, there's a code of conduct and it's transparency. There's value propositions and it's very humbling. So you know recovery, you offer value at all costs. The opportunities really may seem different, and the times are more tolerant for risk. A seat at the table is probably easier to obtain, and create fear and innovation will be outpaced. So what I tell you today is roll up your sleeves because week 20 and it's almost like it's a do-over. So in finish, I'm believing that if your business is founded on the proper poles with solid foundations and valuable products or services, it can withstand any crisis. The US economy is in great shape. It was in great shape prior to the economic shutdown. In this world, Mad Hatter Tea Party is over. There's not a secret alternative reality in the matrix. We will recover. and with good understanding and creative ways, innovation and collaboration, and understanding the facts. I'm optimistic that you will catch up, that I'll be able to catch up on my reading, and I'm hoping the biography is going to be about you, and I am holding you accountable. So I'm going to leave you with my last thoughts, and I noticed that Courtney's on, and we're going to go to the Q&A. So there's some lessons from fairy tales and science fiction and biographies that will help you lead through this COVID recovery. So from the fairy tale I'll give you, actions speak louder than words, never be afraid to ask for help, and they always lived happily ever after. And from the science fiction themes, existence is worthy of survival, imprisoned populations seek liberty, self-destruction is plausible, and anyone can be a hero, superpowers are not required. And then from your famous biographies, the journey of self-discovery always begins in isolation, and people's legacies are not always their intended journey. So with that, I leave you. Good luck, graduates. You're off running. It's going to be some exciting times. Thank you.
Wow, Shelley, that was phenomenal. And I loved how you pulled it together with all of the different themes from the fairy tales and the science fiction. And I think it's super relatable. I think we can relate to the good and the bad, the opportunities and the challenges that we're all faced with right now. So we did have a lot of questions come in, which I'm not surprised by at all. People had some really, really great areas of curiosity. So I'm going to start off with the first question for you. And I've gotten this question a lot too. It's interesting. So we have Sarah Berkner, who has asked, how much do you think the cleanliness standards for large events will increase long term?
Oh, thank you, Sarah, for bringing this question. It's a great one. And I've heard it a lot. So in our company, we're looking for corporate standards. We're looking for global standards. We're looking for regulatory standards. And then obviously there'll be some governmental or locally proven standards. But the question I'll ask, and this is controversial, were we dirty in the first place? Okay, so there's going to be a lot of overhype of things that we should be doing, want to do, but I would have not gone to a hotel and slept in a hotel room if I felt it was uncleanly. And I want us all to make sure we think about that because it's the protection of our own industry. I do believe there will be enhanced sanitation. I believe there's going to be perception and optics around the safety and sanitation piece, and later some relaxation. And we're probably going to find some things that are pretty good about that. And I'm pretty encouraged by it to know that they're cleaning a little bit more because you never knew, right? But I have to tell you, I don't want to walk into the aftermath of this saying that we weren't a clean environment or society. I think that's dangerous. So do more, be optically aware, keep the perspective that to make people travel, you need to do more, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer, Shelley. And I think I actually saw an article this morning, maybe something about Marriott stepping up their cleaning game. And so I think we'll start to see these hotels really be just very forward and very bold in making sure that their customers know that it is clean. We're keeping it as safe and clean as possible for our guests. So I think we'll hear a lot more about what their practices are, but I think that they have been doing a lot of it to begin with. I mean, any hotel I've stayed in that's a quality hotel has been great.
Yeah, and I think that with the clean committees, I think there's some job opportunities there. I really believe that that's a new thing, right? Innovation. And so Marriott came out with the clean committee, right? And now they've got foggers that they're going in and I'm not sure about what the sanitation is from a fogger versus a surface. That's not my area of expertise, but it's very interesting, the innovation and the forwardness that people are taking with sanitation and safety. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think so too. So our second question that we have is from Jacob Horn. And he asks, do you have any tips for someone who will soon be looking for their first job after college?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for that. I have a college graduate myself in my household. So I think we're all pondering the same thing. I believe there's a lot of opportunities. I think because you don't have the fear of past pandemics or past crises, you come in with a vigor. And you offer a lot to the conversation, more than you think you may value yourself, because you don't come with baggage. You don't come with fear of, I had all this built up wealth and it's gone, and therefore I don't want to lose it. And sometimes our strategies and our innovative practices tend to be a little bit more tempered. So I really think that, not having the experience of a past crisis offers a lot of value to the table for what we're going to be talking about in the future.
I think so too. This next question is also a really good question. So we had an anonymous person submit this one. How do you expect organizations to combat travelers' fears that may be associated with COVID-19, for example, sitting in close proximity on an airplane?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty happy that I don't think there's going to be a middle seat for the next 6 months or a year. So I'm okay with that. But I think that the traveler is definitely going to be worried. And I think we put ourselves in, the airline industry, just as an example, or even in the small cabins on the cruise industry. We use these really small spaces for profitability. So I think we're going to have to see the relaxation of some of the profitability in meeting space. I know that we're already talking about, crescent rounds, what does that look like? Are there 3? Nope, you can't put 4. So I think the spatial pieces to what we're going to live through next are going to be real, but I'm not sure they're going to be long-lived.
Yeah, and I'm all about that no middle seat either. So I'm okay with that. Okay, next question, also anonymous. What are the biggest changes you expect to see for organizations post-COVID-19?
Wow, I don't want to spew speculation, but I do believe there's going to be some immediate change, but I think there's going to temper out and eventually we'll get back to kind of our normal. I truly believe in all the countries that I've lived in and worked in, there's a sort of amnesia to trials and tribulations and that hurt. We want to kind of forget that and move on, but it's going to take us some time to get there. And it's going to be about who's leading the charge? What leaders are we following? Who's giving us the right information? And if I could caution everybody today is get your own data. Don't necessarily go to the multimedia streams of confusion. Remember, we're in an election year too. So this is a very interesting place to be from a social media perspective, from a political geography perspective, and then a global pandemic on top of it. So I really want to encourage people today to get your data, know your facts, and understand where those changes are and how they affect you. Because I'm going up only one way in the grocery line doesn't mean that that's going to be lasting and long-lived.
I think it's really interesting that you bring up the political agenda piece too, because that's such a real thing. And I've had those conversations with people as well, where you're hearing one side of the story or another side of the story. And it's, even if it's coming from multiple places, it is so important to back up. First of all, look at where it's coming from, but then do your own research, because there's always an agenda. There's always an angle, whether people are intentional about it or not. So I think that's great advice, Shelley.
Yeah, there's a piece that we talked about on social media ourselves of a girl talking about, and maybe we could put this in the chats of the reference notes of the lady that is talking about information, getting other information, going through another information, and quite frankly, people are confused. So really get your data straight, understand really how it affects you, because I think there's some pent up fear and anxiety that we're creating because we're hearing so many sides to the story. Just yesterday, I was called about, well, we understand that COVID's going to be rampant in the fall and we're going to have to cancel everything. I said, whoa, where did you get this information? Let's talk about it, right? And to really kind of level out those expectations, because at this point, nobody knows. We're speculatory. We don't know if there's going to be a respike, but I'll have look at the data, look at the population countries, look at the spread, look at the recovery, because I will tell you, if you look at China's population and you look at the US population, the two big factors that we're looking at, I think we have to make some understanding of what that data is actually showing us and why.
I think that makes a lot of sense, Shelley. And that leads us into our next question from Elisa Cardenas. What do you anticipate will be the most successful hospitality or tourism businesses in the post-COVID era? And she gave a couple examples: glamping, virtual experience, so even Airbnb. Are there any outstanding businesses that you think will really lead in the change? Well,
I think road trips are going to be on the rise. I think domestic road trips are going to be the thing. And if you're in that sector of the business where you can offer activities and some really neat customized experiences, gas is at its all-time low, right? normally the Americans would have traveled overseas because we had enough money to go, but we weren't there yet to make those plans. We didn't buy that airline ticket. And so I think their summertime travel, if that recovery happens as fast as we want it to, I think road trips are going to be great. And I think that anything that you can offer along the road trip, even the small diner, I think we compassionately are going to then seek those type of experiences.
It's so funny that you say that, Shelley, because I just texted my sisters a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if I've ever said this, but I was like, are we going to road trip soon? I think we're going to road trip soon. So I think you're totally spot on with that. That's funny. Another question, another good one. What is the balanced approach that your brand is taking to assess when it's time to slowly reopen for business based on mandates and regulations put forth by federal, state, and municipal governments?
Wow, it's a fabulously loaded question.
It is.
So because we are in a couple different areas. So we have the cafe division, which is health restriction oriented and very travel oriented. When you're going to a Hard Rock Cafe, you're going for the burger, usually in a tourism destination to buy the t-shirt. Okay. So that's going to kind of curtail a little bit of our recovery for sure, because the international travel probably won't be as fast as the domestic travel, number one. Number two, we have a lot of varieties of different types of businesses, some franchised and some corporately owned. But we also have to remember that there's going to be health sanitation, there's going to be regulatory bodies, government, gaming bodies. Because remember, we're in a whole different kind of spiel, but there is a balanced approach. The balanced approach is security, safety, and your customers first.
That's a great answer, Shelley. I think we've got time for one or two more questions. So our next question comes from Grace Payne, and she's asking for a little bit of clarity. Into the next year, how do you think COVID-19 will permanently impact hospitality and tourism in the U.S.?
Well, I think the conversation is going to be alive. I think we're always going to talk about it. And I think that's where it will always live, in the conversation, with a transparent code of conduct that I mentioned. I was like, if we say that it didn't happen, we're kidding ourselves, right? But we go back to that fairy tale reality. Because only 10 years ago were we in the great economic crisis, right? Short-lived amnesia, right? And so we rose very quickly to become this really great tea party of an industry. And now all of a sudden we're kind of back there, right? And so life is cyclical, let's remember. And to those that have kind of gone through, life is cyclical, and you can expect another pandemic. So keeping the conversation alive is super important. Understanding where we went wrong is very important. So go back to the data, understand, did we not act fast enough? Did we, as a global economy, and we knew our hotels were closing in China, could we have closed them anyway earlier? Like, we have to ask ourselves those questions. Did it need to be a state of emergency by our government federally, or could we corporately have done the right thing? And those are questions to ask all of us. And there are no answers to that, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It's just really evaluate really what happened so you can have that transparent conversation and an accountable code of conduct moving forward.
Yep, I agree, Shelley. All right, final question from Tyler Kane, and we've had people upvoting like crazy, so they're trying to get their questions to the top.
Thank you, everybody.
So Tyler asks, do you think office jobs will permanently change to work from home environments within the next few years?
Wow, that's a great question, because I often struggle the same way, because I used to work at home and then I went into the office, and the water cooler concept is a good one, I have to tell you. The same way as we're saying that face-to-face meetings are important, I think office environments are just as important. I think we do a lot of collaboration and a lot of work together. I think for young people going into the industry and have to work from home, I think they're going to get a disjustice in their experience and their learning concepts, because you innately, by just hearing things that are going on in your workplace, you become smarter. And if a young individual has to go into an environment where they're stuck in isolation and work from home, and they don't have the water cooler experience, I think it's going to hinder a little bit of that progress. So I would like to see office work go back. I think there will be contracts of work from home or more of it being done, but I don't think we're going to get rid of office environments, and I don't think rent's going to go away. The real estate industry is just really too important. And remember, it's also the equity on a balance sheet to have space for a company. So they need to have office space. It's a P&L perspective. So always think about it in the terms of economics, not only as its social response.
That's really interesting, Shelley. And I hope that we don't do so much work from home, because I think you're right. Those relationships are built, your opportunities to speak up at a board meeting or in an important meeting with VIPs. That's what happens when you're there in person. Shelley, thank you so much for being here today. This was so insightful. It was so informative for everybody listening. You are a true industry leader, and I so appreciate all of your economic perspective and everything you've shared with us today. So thank you again, Shelley, for joining us.
Thank you. Good luck, graduates, and have fun. This is going to be some great times.
Yes, it will.
Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Shelley. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was incredible. What a way to start off the virtual conference today. I am really excited to introduce our second speaker of the day, and we're going to roll right into this presentation here. We've got Dalia El-Ghazar as our second speaker. Dalia, could you join us on camera and unmute?
I can join you audio. I just need someone to turn my video on.
You got it. We will take care of that for you. Wouldn't be the same without seeing you.
I even put makeup on today, so.
Okay, so you should be able to join us via video, hopefully, in the next second here. There she is.
Hi.
Yes, looking gorgeous.
Hello. Not as gorgeous as you, honey.
Well, it takes time, you know what it's like.
How's
It's
it
great to
going?
see you, Dalia.
Good to see you too.
I'm so excited to have you here. So, audience, Dalia El-Ghazar is a rock star. I'm gonna do her formal introduction, but I have to preface with a little personal flavor, because this woman, much like Shelley, has been incredibly influential in my career and in my life. And we're going to get into some education about mentorship later today. And Dalia is one of my most amazing mentors. So Dalia, it's great to have you here today. And I'd love to have the audience give you a warm virtual welcome in the chat box. And audience, please make sure that you are continuing to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You'll want to make sure that you upvote the questions that you think are the best. That way they get asked. You saw in our first session, we were only able to get through maybe half. So keep asking those great questions, and I will give you the floor, Dalia, after I give you this wonderful introduction.
Awesome. So let me go into, I want to make sure. Wait.
Okay, I'll let you figure out your screen stuff. All right, everybody. So please virtually welcome Dalia El-Ghazar. Dalia is the owner and chief tech evangelist of Dalia Plus Agency. Since the inception of Dalia Plus Agency, Dalia's goal is to flatten each professional tech learner curve by providing interactive and engaging educational experiences. Dalia has an OMG attitude, which I can attest to, about all tech and audience engagement solutions, with more than a decade of experience in the meetings and events sector. And I'm pretty sure it's way more than a decade, because I have a decade of experience and you're the queen. Working on both the professional planning side and as an association collaborator, Dalia is known as the coffee-fueled go-to source for trend-setting solutions, event tech news, and social media expertise. That is true. Her mission is to untether the busy professional from their desktop and office and enable them to be more efficient and productive, working from a beach in Mexico, umbrella drink in hand, yes please, through their mobile device using smart solutions and apps. She is an Evernote aficionado, speaks globally on meetings and events technology, new and upcoming technology solutions and platforms, and more. Her mission is to empower event professionals with practical intel on everything tech-related and engage them on the emerging digital innovation opportunities to elevate their events and audience engagement and brand. So Dalia wants you to break the status quo and get shift done. Dalia, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. The stage is yours.
Thank you, thank you. And you know, for a fact, you know, especially with you and Trevor and all the amazing speakers that you put together. So kudos to you, and you did an amazing job putting this together, especially now, and especially for this audience. And you know that I feed off of everybody's energy, especially your energy. So today, thank you for that introduction. But today, I think my mission here is to help all the graduates and to help anybody that is going to be hitting the reset button on their own brand on how to maximize LinkedIn for that mission. So there's a couple of great things in here. There's also a couple of homework pieces. So you're not out of school yet. I'm putting you actually back into school. So you can hate me now, but you'll love me later, I gotta tell you. So we're gonna start with the fun stuff. If you have LinkedIn on your phone, which I hope you do, and if you can bring your phone out, what I would love is first and foremost to connect with me, not only on LinkedIn, but across social media so that I could keep a track of you. But open your LinkedIn app, and then on your home feed, you're gonna see the QR code on the top. And I want you to hit the QR code. You're gonna come to a page called LinkedIn Code. You're gonna have probably to enable your camera. And when you do, you have a scan mode and you have a my code mode. So just FYI, everybody has a QR code for their personal profile. I want you in scan mode and hold it up against the QR code, my QR code on the screen. And that way we would be connecting. And if you can do this, oh, I see this happening. This is awesome. So the reason why I want you to do this is I will hold you accountable. Hopefully when you do enhance your LinkedIn profile, you will get back in touch with me to tell me or ask me to take another look at it. And then there is actually something on my feed that I will share with you in a bit that I kind of set up, but I'm hoping you as connections can feed into that as well so that you can increase your tribe. So that being done, that's the fun part for now. I'm hoping all of this is fun, but that's your fun part for now. So with LinkedIn, I know that the focus is on LinkedIn as a conversation. I actually want you to take a look at your brand first and foremost before you tackle LinkedIn. I had I have a mentor. I had a leadership coach a while back, right before I started my own agency. And I've been in the events tech side, in the events world for quite a bit of time. Yes, more than a decade, but I kind of look good for my age. So, but one thing that struck me and stuck with me, and I do this often, and it is kind of ironic, but I want you to plan your flight plan. And what that means, it basically is you are in an origin city, so where you're at right now, and I want you to plan where you are going, where your destination city is going to be, just as you would a flight, and how long it will take you there. If there's any other cities that you're going to be, landing in, if you will, and as well as who's going to be on the flight with you. So think of it like from first class, business class, economy class, because what you are building is, I'm not going to ask you, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Shorten that time, shorten that flight, if you will. But I want you to see where your destination is. Don't think of where you are right now. Although, what we're going through, I actually see this as a golden opportunity, not only for our industry, but especially for you and what you can bring to us, because this is where we need it the most. So think of your destination city. Think how long it's going to take you there. So you have to put like a time frame, time limit on it. And as well as who's going to be on the flight with you, who's going to help you get to that destination. The other thing is write yourself a statement. So I am a big believer in law of attraction. I'm a big believer in abundance checks and abundance statements. You can ask me about that later. But I want you to write a statement that really solidifies where you are going, by what date, and what you're going to bring to the table. And this, I'll show you how this applies to LinkedIn. So you just state it. You're like, I, Dalia Gazar, by this date, August 31st, August has 31 days because I don't even know what day it is, will have established myself with these top skills. And so you list those skills. It doesn't have to be 5, it could be 3, could be 10, whatever it is, but you are putting this down on paper. And my success will depend on, make sure that you are very, very laser focused on what you are going to measure your success with, whether it is monies you want to have as a salary, whether it is, you know, establishing yourself within a specific company or a specific job. Be very, very specific. The other exercise that I would love for you to have, and Courtney, I think you did this as well, if I'm not mistaken, but this is where I want you, it's very hard for you to assess what your personality is about or how people perceive you professionally. And no matter where you are, if you just graduated, if you've had internships, maybe you've done projects, there's always going to be people around you that know you in a specific format. So, or in a specific light, if I should say that. So I want you to ask 5 people how they see you and ask them specific questions like, how do you communicate? Or how do you hold yourself when communicating? Or one word that they can use to describe you. Because all of this is going to shape how people see you. A lot of times people are very humble about their persona. And I want you to get out of that, because LinkedIn, you really cannot be humble on LinkedIn. You have to use that as one of your megaphones. And so if you are having trouble seeing what you are all about, you're going to have a little bit of a challenge putting that in your LinkedIn. So you can always tap into people that know you from just different aspects, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a colleague, someone you worked with in an internship, or even your parents. So, well, parents are biased, but that's beside the point. Then the other exercise is, I want you to write your dream job description. I don't want you looking at just positions that are out there and trying to pigeonhole yourself into that job. My dream is when we get out of all of this, or actually now, that everybody will be writing their job description. And, you know, it is going to be a beautiful thing if you are able to really eloquently and stand by what your core skills and competencies are and what you can bring to a company. So it's not like you take a look at a job description and say, yeah, I can fit this, and then just settle for it. I think that sort of, if you put your job description together, you are actually bringing something to the company, which is more on the innovative side, more on the creative side, and more on the authentic side than just putting out a job description and you trying to fit in it. So I always tell people about LinkedIn that a resume is for where you are at, and LinkedIn is for where you want to be. So if we go back to that whole idea of the flight plan, your resume is your origin city. And I do understand that some of you might not have job experience. That's fine. But what I want you to start positioning yourself is that LinkedIn is a storyboard. LinkedIn is where you want to be. This is not something to just put down all the experience that you have. You have to put it in a way where people are going to be saying, I want to connect with them because they have this potential. And then you're going to back it up with examples. So on LinkedIn, what you need to focus on is you need to have intentional connections, content, and conversations. Those are the only 3 things that you need to focus on right now, and you have to kick ass at all of them. So if you look at all the connections and actually that you have at the moment, but also the ones that you just connected with me, for example, and I don't want overachievers to do this. Anything I talk about on LinkedIn, please try not to do it on the app right now or on a browser or anything like that. Wait until I'm done, and then I'm going to help you through it if you need to. But with your connections, as well as with the conversations, those type of engagements are going to broaden your tribe. It's going to broaden your credibility. And those specific, what you are good at, like skills, if you will, those are going to come out as you being authentic and being real with the connections that you have on LinkedIn. Here's the basics for LinkedIn. If you don't have a profile done right now, you have to go ahead and do it. So resume aside, all of this, take a look at your profile and make sure that it is as complete as possible. So one thing to note is that the top card, which is where you have your headshot, make sure you have a professional headshot. Don't crop out a picture if you had a fishing trip and you looked amazing, you know, on the boat, and you cropped it out and put it on LinkedIn. That doesn't work anymore. Make sure that you also put in some sort of background on the top, and that you can use Canva for. So that's canva.com. I think I have it also in this deck for you. And put something on the top that talks about you as a brand, or a mantra, or something that is relevant to you as a brand. Everybody's a brand. You have to think of yourself as that. You have to be your own megaphone, and you are your own brand, no matter if you don't have work experience or anything like that. So the other thing is, under your photo, this used to take, this used to be like your job title. You used to take like the position from your first experience in the experience section. Now I want you to start thinking of LinkedIn as your storyboard. So this has to be a headline. This has to be a tagline to your brand. And if you're looking for new opportunities, be bold. Say that you're looking for new opportunities, whether it's hospitality, whether it's hashtag events industry, whether it's something even specific like event tech, digital marketing. Be bold on what you are looking for, because that will come into the search results when people are searching for that specific word, for example. But be bold in your headlines. Don't make it be, oh, I'm just, you know, intern in blah, blah, blah. Make it what your story is about. So that's the headline. Then you're going to continue your story in the about section. And so this is where you go to focus about like the top skills or the top competencies that you have, and don't be humble about it. What you want is, like, for example, if you were a part of planning an event at your school, then talk about the cat herding it took to put that event together, or talk about like the communications that you had to go through in order to get everybody. I mean, it is like cat herding. So try to be visual about what you do, instead of just saying managed, oversaw, was part of a team, etc. So be able to put it in context, but have a story around it. This is the hardest thing to do, because people don't like to talk about themselves. People don't know how to write their own story. So two things I would say is, write the about section and ask for someone to help you edit it. Write the about section and then ask someone to say, what do you think? Not from an editing perspective. Well, please use Grammarly when writing anything on LinkedIn, so that, you know, punctuation and spelling and all of that aside is out of the way. But always ask for an editor. Always ask for maybe one of those 5 people that you're asking them what they think about you, to take a look at the about section that you put together for your LinkedIn profile. There's a really cool button on LinkedIn, if you don't know about it. It's called the add profile section. And I sort of, I've dubbed it the cheat sheet for LinkedIn. And basically what it does is it lists out all the different sections that you can, you can put together on your profile. You don't have to use them all. The ones that I would say to fill out is your intro, which is the top card, your about section, work experience. So I would put in there internships, and I have a couple of notes in there for you. Your education, any certifications that you've done, volunteer work that you've done, any projects that you've done, awards, languages. If you have languages, please add that in there. Any publications or blogs or anything that has that shows your talent, especially that you can include within your profile. More is more here, okay? So especially if you don't have a job, more is more here. And I'm going to show you how to put content together in a second as well. So in the experience section, if you have internships, that replaces where you see, for example, Dahlia Plus, Secret Sauce, etc. Put your internships in here, But what I want you to do is with the internships, put a couple of sentences in the description for each one of them that shows what that organization was about or what that event was about. So for example, if you put your event together with a group of people at your school, make sure that you put context around it so that they see what your responsibilities and what part did you manage or what part were you taking or handling or responsible for in that overall event. For example, did a huge event, 500 people, awards gala, did the marketing, did the registration, but with the company or with that project, put a couple of lines that just gives a description of it first and foremost, and then put your responsibilities, what you did. Now, the other thing is you have to put examples in there. So you have to put examples, or if you have pictures of the project or the pictures of the event, use this as your media portfolio. We are all visual people and we love to see pictures. We love to see videos. And this is where I say upload links, put a PDF together or a photo collage of the events that you've done, interviews that you've conducted, for example, footage that you might have, and create a media portfolio under every single position that you have here. Now, if you've had internships and maybe some of them are very similar, like if you were, or if maybe you were a barista in a coffee shop, for example, what I want you to do is you position that in a way that has context to where you want to go. So like if you had to manage inventory, that's important. If you had to, very important. So you have to talk about it in the responsibilities or the bullets that you put in these different experiences, something that will relate back to where you want to be, that dream position that you want to be. Don't just say was a barista and that was it. No, there's a lot that has to do with being a barista or being in a coffee shop that can translate when it comes to skills and competencies, especially if you're dealing with people and you're back and you want to go into hospitality or you want to go in the events industry. Dealing with people is cat herding. It is the most difficult job in the whole entire world. That's why sometimes I think I'm a therapist more than anything. And I think Courtney can attest to that. But what I want you to do is spend some time to make sure that you are nailing this. An internship is nothing to be belittled. Just put that in there. Make sure that you're talking about it in the context of the job you want. The other section is the skills section. So whatever skills you have in there right now in LinkedIn, start over. So if you take a look or if you make a list, here's your to-do list for the skills section. You want to make a list of say 10 to 15 core competencies. If you need to cheat, this is one. If you need to steal ideas, I shouldn't say cheat because I shouldn't say that. But if you need to steal ideas, take a look at some of the competencies of influencers or people you look up to on LinkedIn or that you want to be like or have positions that you want, and look at their core competencies. You're going to put your list of core competencies together. You're going to go in the skills section. You're going to individually add those new skills up in this section. You're going to delete old ones that don't make sense. You want to also pin on the very top 3 that you want to have above the fold before it says show more. And then you also want to use I call it the hamburger icon, but the hamburger icon for you to reorder all of the others, and then turn on your endorsements so people are able to endorse you for those skills. So those are the 6 things that you can do in this section. Are we good so far? I need like thumbs up, thumbs down, or something. And actually, if you are watching this, one thing that I love is to see if you're watching this with a fur baby, because I'm into fur babies right now. Or if you have like a very special snack next to you, can you take a selfie, take a picture, and then just share it on social media or even on LinkedIn and say, hey, Dahlia, there's my fur baby or my favorite snack, because I have many at the moment. So skills and endorsements. Now, I also think that recommendations are more important than skills and endorsements, especially for where you want to go, where you want to be. And so there's a different, I have a different opinion on how you can do recommendations. I'm going to share it with you right now. Tell me if this makes sense to you, or if this works for you, or if you have another way of even using LinkedIn. Please share it in the chat so that everybody else can see it as well. But for recommendations, it's really important if you target the people that you want to have recommendations from. So for example, if you have, here's how I see it. Get recommendations from people that you've reported directly to. Get recommendations of people that maybe potentially have reported to you. Get recommendations of potential partners, as well as get recommendations of people that just know you. That way it's all rounded. It's rounded around, like you're the hub, and it gives a full perspective of what you are about as a professional and as a personal. This is where the relationships start. So you can ask someone specifically within the recommendation section for a recommendation. And then you can also identify what the relationship is, whether they reported directly to me, or I reported to them, or we worked on a project together, what position in what company we were at the time. And then here, the last bit is there's always a default, right? So the default is, hi, Delia, can you write me a recommendation? Never use that. You need to be intentional. You need to have a purpose for your recommendations. So if Courtney was asking me for a recommendation, she would say, Delia, it was great working with you on this presentation and this conference. Can you write me a recommendation? How about this? And she would draft it out. She would actually add in there something about one of her core competencies. And so what this does is it doesn't ask me to overthink. It gives me a chance to edit or to add on to the recommendation she wants, and she gets the recommendation that she wants, and it's focused on one of her core competencies. And more so than anything, it lessens the lead time of delivery, since I didn't have to think of everything on my own, if that makes sense. So your brand, if you think of all the brands that you resonate with, whether it's, actually, this is a good time to chat. So can you put in the chat some of the brands that you resonate with, or that you just are loyal to, and why? What's their superpower, and why are you loyal to that brand? It could be Apple, it could be Nike, it could be Under Armour. Trevor, I don't know what brands you like, but maybe you can add on to here. And what their superpower is, because the superpower is the why. There's always an emotional connection as well to a brand, so you have to think of it that way. For us as individuals that are in relationship building, and all of us are going to even be in it more so than ever right now, but especially in our industry, hospitality, travel, events, you name it. Our brand is about content. Our brand is about authenticity. This is why, you know, we follow different influencers, and we continue to do that. And the stories have to have some credibility to it. So like my mission has always been, I want to be a go-to person or a go-to source for anything that's like tech related, but more so than anything that helps people shivot, which is shift and pivot. I refuse to say pivot anymore because I'm sick and tired of that word. But I want people to shift outside of their comfort zone. And I hope that, you know, that anything I do actually does that for them. So the reason why I say that is your content. I want you to become content machines. It's going to make you stand out more so than anything. And I don't want you overthinking the content that you put together. I'll give you a very quick example. Once this is done today or this afternoon, pick up your phone, turn on your video, and you're going to take a video of yourself with the 3 or 5 highlights of what you learned today, and you're going to post it on LinkedIn. And what I want you to do is I want you to tag, if you have not connected already with the other speakers, you need to do so ASAP. I want you to tag not only the other speakers, I want you to tag the conference. I want you to tag and use hashtags if you need to. Don't overuse them. I'm going to get into that in a minute. But I want you to be able to not be afraid to become a content machine. And the reason why I say that is once you get out of your comfort zone doing that, you're going to find your tribe. You're going to find people that resonate with what you say. You're going to find people that have similar content or topics of interest that then you latch onto, and then you'll be able to expand your tribe, expand your knowledge, expand your credibility as well. That's going to come through content creation, through tagging. Tagging is very important, especially if not only when you're creating content, but when you're curating content, meaning that you're resharing someone else's content, tagging them, giving them credit, adding on to the conversation, because it is all about the conversation. So there's a couple of influencers that I love that are out there. There's a ton. And please, I mean, if you look at my follow list, my profile, this is like just a snippet of who I follow. Now, there's influencers within our industry. There's the events industry. There's influencers in the hospitality industry. There's influencers that know how to create content that just resonates across. So Goldie Chan is one of my favorite, the green-eyed content monster, as I call her. And the way she, and a lot of times it's like, well, they're not relevant. They actually are. They are, because they're not afraid to try something new out, right? So they do different types of content in different ways. Goldie Chan goes and, takes you on a road trip, which I kind of love, Shelley, the idea of the road trip, but takes you on a road trip to Disney. And then you realize you actually went on a site inspection in some of their new areas and you didn't even realize it. So it's like things like that. This is where you need to spark creativity and spark interest and spark new ideas. That's going to be part of what you bring to your next job, to the next company that's going to be lucky to have you there. So this is where I want you to tap into, like a Duncan Wardle and how he writes content, how he writes posts. Quentin is absolutely fantastic on this. Alan is also, he has his own way of creating content, of engagement. And you take a look at the conversations that are happening on their posts, it's kind of incredible. So with that is make a list of followers, because that's going to help you also reshare. And if you're not in the mood of creating your own content, you will be able to reshare content and then engaging with it, or saying, if, say, for example, Alan puts like a top 5 list of social selling, you can say, I agree with point 2 and 4. What do you guys think? And that could be part of your content. Whatever you do on LinkedIn, make sure that you're consistent. So whatever content you create or post or share, that it has a consistent cadence to it, so that you don't disappear and come back and people are like, where did they go? So even if you're in job hunting mode right now, you still have to create content. And it could be anything as even a comment on a discussion happening in one of the groups. It could be a comment on a follower's post, for example, or video that they put up. One thing to do is utilize hashtags. Make sure that you also put in LinkedIn a list of hashtags that are relevant to the industry. And you can do that. You just follow hashtags that will come. I keep going like this because it's on the left on browser. So you can follow certain hashtags. When you're using hashtags, don't overuse it. Please don't put 15 hashtags just thinking that you are going to get more visibility. Be very, very specific on the usage of hashtags. But what hashtags does for you on LinkedIn is that first it shows you what conversations are being had on that specific topic. So that's one. Second, it shows you people that are engaged within that conversation or topic. So those are potential connections, potential partners, people that you might find that they're looking for certain professionals to be part of their teams, for example. These are people that then you get to have a relationship with, and then you can say, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And the intention is, I'm looking for this type of position, and this is what I can bring to the table. So this is where you see the type of content by hashtag, the people that are using that hashtag, as well as that term being used on openings or job openings within the LinkedIn job board as well. When you are connecting with anybody on LinkedIn, don't just hit send now or the connect button. What I want you to be is intentional, again, on the note that you add on. So if you're going to send Trevor a note, you say, I heard you on our conference this morning. You were frippin' amazing, and you're going to see his hair. He texted me, so he told me that he got his hair done. And your hair was spot on. And be relevant and saying, I want to connect because I can help with this. Always be very, very personal and intentional in the invitations when connecting with people on LinkedIn. You don't want to be like a cold call, if you will, because nobody wants that. I'm sure you don't either. So for those that are gonna become LinkedIn connoisseurs, which I hope it's all of you, there is something called the LinkedIn.com SSI, which is a social selling index. So this is primarily for like those that are gonna go into sales or just wanna see where they're at when it comes to their profile and where they are within their industry, et cetera. This might not even pertain to you at the moment, but you just need to know and be aware that is out there. So it shows you your branding, the connections that you have, how you're engaging, and it gives you some sort of index to it. And it's kind of interesting to see, once you have this, once you have this profile done, where does your ranking go? Where does it, and this is not a competition. If there's any like very competitive people out there, this is not a competition. This is just an index for you to see how you are performing on LinkedIn. All right, so let's talk about creating content and engagement. So a lot of people say, and you can raise your hand if you want, but a lot of people say, I have nothing to write about. I have trouble creating content. I get stumped. I know people that overthink it and say, I don't have the right GIF or the meme, or I don't have the right image, and then you talk yourself out of sharing content. If you go back to your flight plan, and if you go back to, this is the core competencies I want to be known for, the top 3, what you are able to do is you're able to aggregate content that will help you reshare, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's from New York Times or anything of the sort. Excuse me. So feedly.com, if I'm not mistaken, free of charge, where you are able to do it by topic, by subject, by source. So it could be Verge, it could be Reddit, it could be, a New York Times, New Yorker, whatever it is, but you do it by topic. Don't overthink, just do it, where you'll have all your articles in one spot. And this is where you can pull from something that would be relevant to a conversation, something that would be relevant to the topics that you want to be known for example. So that's one thing. The other thing is you can get content and reshare, like we said, from your influencers, from the people you follow, from the companies you follow. So you follow your companies, and then you also follow you follow influencers. Don't stick only to the industry that you want to be in. Think outside. So if you like Bill Gates, Tony Hsieh from Zappos, anything like that, anything that has to do with the topics that you want to be consistent in, but you can also have fun. So meaning like, images, and this is where you're going to be able to see your analytics of your posts, what resonated when. You might find that some of the reshares that you did on Monday morning do better than on a Friday evening. So you're going to have to try and test all of this out. So this will slowly almost become like a content schedule or content calendar for you.
Hey, Dahlia.
Yeah.
Can we switch to some questions? Because we're getting a lot from the audience.
Oh my God. Okay, sure.
Yeah, that engagement that you want, it's happening. Somebody suggested.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, somebody suggested that you write a book.
So, but here's the thing, just so that everybody knows, there's a lot in this presentation deck that Courtney, you're going to share with them.
Yes.
That I don't have to go through right now.
Yes. Yeah. And people were asking for that too. So everybody's, it's 2 thumbs up from everybody. Great content. They want more. They want a copy of the presentation and they want you to write a book. So,
oh my God.
So I'd say you're doing pretty well. Dahlia, if you want to turn off your screen share, I'd love to jump into Q&A because we've got a lot of people asking you some really good questions.
Sure.
So the first question we have is from Caroline Emery, and she says, Dahlia, what is the most valuable part of LinkedIn, the LinkedIn profile, that recruiters or those in charge of hiring will look at? Is there anything you would definitely recommend having on there to create a stronger presence opposed to others?
So I would definitely give time to your top card in the about section. Make sure that you use, I don't want to say buzzwords, but it's almost like LinkedIn has its own SEO machine in it. So you want to use words that resonate with what, like I said, the job that you want to have, right? And so the other thing is for recruiters, if you're open to recruiters, make sure that you, in the back end, you in your settings, in your privacy and settings, that you turn that on so that recruiters can get in touch with you. The other part is the skills and endorsements. I believe they take a look at that. And then obviously your experience section.
Yeah, that's great advice, Dahlia. And someone else asked, Grace Payne from the audience asked you, what is the one thing that someone can do to really set their LinkedIn profile apart?
The content engagement has to be key. So like, having a profile up and not having it be active, like if there's no activity in there, I think people take note of that. And it also pertains to what position you want. So like if you're in the hospitality and then travel or events industry, like the whole communication is essential. And that would come out in engagement and discussions and, sharing of content. And like I said, don't overthink it. This is like you coming in, and actually this is a good thing is, Courtney, I don't know if everybody has access to the speakers, like even just saying to each of the speakers, what's the one highlight you would give from this conference? That's a very quick LinkedIn article or post that you can put together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think content makes all the difference, especially if you want to be seen as someone who's leading in your field, whatever that may be. Okay, so this is a really good question, and I know I get asked this all the time when we do LinkedIn reviews for people. So we had an anonymous question, and this person asked, in today's world, do you ever feel, it's actually ironic that this is anonymous, do you ever feel that we are putting too much information on LinkedIn when it comes to identity theft, hackers, especially for those of us that are not paying for private or upgraded accounts?
I would say yes, but no at the same time. So yes, you are putting a lot of information up. It really has to, it has to be around what your goal is. So depending on where you're at, I've had people put enough information on their LinkedIn because they're happy in the jobs that they're in. I've had people that had to put more information, especially contact information, if they wanted to be recruited or if they're looking for, their new adventure, if you will. But it really depends on how much you want to be seen or not as well. I don't know if that's a cop-out.
No, I think that's a good answer, Dahlia. And I would echo that advice, and just saying that the purpose of being on LinkedIn is to connect. It's to build your brand. It's to show the world who you are and what you're great at, and it's for you to get to know other people. So I
Right.
think you have to, keep it as private as you're comfortable, but also know that you're there because you're working on building your brand and exposing the experience that you have. So I would totally echo that
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, there's ways where in your setting you can turn on or off who you want to have reach out to you. So I would strongly suggest after you edit your LinkedIn to make sure that you take a look at the settings and the privacy settings and then just see what you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. Okay, I think we have time for 2 more questions. So if you guys entered a question in here and you haven't yet, make sure you go in and upvote because it's going to change. It could change the last question that we ask here. So we have Kristen Purdy asking, and this is a really good question, how do you see the technology aspect moving forward in conjunction with live events once the economy gets up and running again? Do you think we see a large flux of virtual elements incorporated into live events now?
So there's going to be a huge blend of face-to-face and virtual experiences. And I think the winners here are going to be the ones that can help with the connections and the networking, and on long term, how to keep those conversations going. And so the technology is going to definitely help with that. But the blending of, like, for example, LinkedIn, that little networking or that little connection thing that we did, that can definitely be done on a face-to-face. I think the technologies are going to evolve where they're going to have to be stronger for us to be able to connect virtually and then extend those conversations or the content exchange, if you will, on the face-to-face side too, so that it sort of like travels with you in the different types of event types they're going to be. But it's virtual, face-to-face, blended, hybrid. It's all going to be all there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so here is our final question. And I'm going to ask you maybe to explain a little bit before you answer. So the question comes from Amanda Blake, and she asks, regarding event technology, do you think that we will see more RFID technology utilized to limit face-to-face contact and practice more of a social distancing concept? Is this the way of the future? Should event producers be prepared for this?
I think event producers should be prepared for anything because they were not prepared for this. But this is an interesting question because this is where I see technologies like Bluetooth, RFID, facial recognition, all of that. They're going to have to do a creative pivot in order to handle, social distancing as long as we need it, right? But also think ahead of like, okay, what if something happens, I think, so I applaud event technology companies, RFID or not, that have come to the ask of virtual events platform, and they've done a tremendous job. I think what we need as a second, like a wave, is we need technologies that can help us almost foresee like new things that can happen, with social distancing, with not, etc. So it's almost like watching a marathon of sci-fi movies and saying, oh my God, whether it's Matrix, because I'm a Matrix fan, or, Ready Player One or whatever it is, and seeing what technologies were used in those scenarios that we can use for our own experiences. So the experience design is going to have to shift. If RFID or if facial recognition or something like that is going to fit, then that's where the creativity comes in. But event producers have to be ready for absolutely anything right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Delia, thank you so much for that incredible overview of
Absolutely.
LinkedIn and that lesson in digital and content marketing. I know I always learn a ton from you, and even though I'm muted and off camera, I'm laughing at the Shivit word that you came up with, and everybody else has been chatting and saying that this has been absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you on behalf of the audience and everybody here today for everything that you've brought to the table. And I can't wait to see you at a live event soon. That'll be great.
Yeah, thank you. Just one thing real quick. So on my LinkedIn feed, there is a conversation happening where I'm actually having people network with each other. And I told everybody that was on that feed that you all were coming in. So I want you to feed into that, no pun intended, so that you get more connections and hopefully job opportunities as well. So
that's awesome, Dahlia. Check her out, Dahlia El Gazar on LinkedIn. She's pretty easy to find. If you can't find her, just do a little extra digging. Thank you so much, Dahlia. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, honey.
And to everybody else, we are going to take a 5-minute break. So if you need to use the restroom, if you need to refill your coffee, get some water, now is the time to do that. So at 11:55 Eastern Time, so in 5 minutes, we will come back. And I am super excited to introduce our third speaker of the day, Trevor Louis. So get ready. He's the king of brand and relationship building, and he's going to teach us some really good stuff. All right, I will see you in 5 minutes. All right, audience, let's get this show on the road. I hope you had a couple minutes there to just take care of yourself and get yourself another cup of coffee or a glass of water. Like I said before, I am so excited for this next speaker, but let me just run through a couple of housekeeping notes first. So for those of you who might be joining us a little bit later this morning as we shift into our afternoon sessions, my name is Courtney Stanley and I'm today's MC. We will be using the Q&A question and answer box at the bottom of the screen. So we'll be doing Q&A at the end of each presentation. So make sure that you enter your questions in the Q&A box and then click on the thumbs up icon to upvote the questions that you would like to be asked first. We may not have time to get to all the questions, so this is a great way to make sure we answer the most popular questions that we have. We're also using the chat box, and as you saw during the break, we asked you to enter in your LinkedIn URL so that way you can connect with other people here who are at the conference. So make sure that you enter that in there and connect with everybody else and check out all the other awesome participants we have here today. All right, so we have our next speaker coming up here, Trevor Louie. Trevor, I am going to ask you to join us via video and unmute yourself. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you, which
Perfect.
is great.
Perfect.
Trevor, where are you joining us from today?
I am joining you from Toronto up in Canada, north of the border.
Woohoo, best city in the world.
I agree. I agree.
Awesome. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for being here today. Obviously, I am a huge fan of yours. Trevor actually was my first mentor that I ever had in the world of business, really generally speaking. And Trevor's an awesome guy. He's given me a lot of great life advice, and I'm super fortunate to have had such an amazing leader and mentor in my life. So Trevor, it's an honor for me to have you here today and really a privilege for the audience to hear from you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Audience, will you please give Trevor Louie a warm virtual welcome in the chat box, and we will get started. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Trevor Louie. So Trevor has made a life and career surrounded by the sights and sounds of food and drink. He has spent more than 20 years producing thousands of event experiences as an executive for major entertainment venues, top-tier hotels and casinos for the likes of heads of states and Hollywood starlets. A diverse builder of innovative implementation, brand marketing, operations, and ground zero build-outs, he likes a good, honest meal on a street corner rather than being tied down to a corporate boardroom. Trevor is a lover of the story and inspired with each bite and sip around him, and believes that we are all connected through our dining experiences. Trevor recently shed his corporate job to fulfill his entrepreneurial dream of creating unique experiences. He has helped co-create and develop some of Toronto's foremost food brands: Can Pie Snack Bar, Yatai Japanese Street Food, Shook Noodle, which I've yet to try and I'm dying to try, La Brea Food, Fat Rabbit, and Stacked Market collaborations, Maka Noodle Bar, and Pop Kitchen. His agency, Highball Group, curates uniquely immersive culinary events that pushes the boundaries of innovation, coupled with a growing list of clients that seek their services for branded video content in the style of his well-documented Soulful Food Stories series. That's a tongue twister. In addition, Trevor is a frequent consultant, speaker, and editorial contributor to industry publications in the events and hospitality field and business forums, as well as holding executive posts on boards in the global tourism and academia space. He has also provided promotional ambassadorship to numerous notable consumer brands. So some of you were shouting out some of those really cool brands, and is a regular contributor to Cityline. Look out for Trevor's cookbook, set to hit shelves in the fall of 2020. Audience, we are so lucky to be hearing from a pro and a boss like Trevor Louie today. Trevor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It certainly sounds like I'm a really busy person, but I think I took a lot of my resume writing skills from Dahlia when I met her through the years in this industry. So thank you for that great introduction. And thank you, Shelly and Dahlia, for sharing your expertise. And of course, Courtney, for inviting me. Three of some of the dearest friends that I've had years in this industry. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Grand Valley State University for allowing us to be together to share our stories and the hundreds that have registered to be as a community. I also want to take a moment to thank all the frontline workers, healthcare workers, essential workers who are really out there as our heroes right now, sacrificing at the ultimate level for all of us. I want to get into this really quickly, but I do want to talk about the pineapple dilemma on pizza. I am hashtag Team Pineapple. Being a couple and Hawaiian pizza is a Canadian, and so I have to be on Team Pineapple. Although a lot of friends, particularly my Italian chef friends, very passionate about non-pineapple, but I believe in the salt and sweet as well. I want to get into a few things. This is going to be not scripted. I just want to talk about sort of my journey and how potentially my journey can help with your journey. Started my career quite a while ago, about 25 years ago, starting off in event production first, and then 20 plus years in the supplier side, working in convention centers, hotels, and casinos. And now, you know, after being in that world, I decided to go on a vertical of creating my own agency. And having an own agency really has allowed me to learn in many different ways, but particularly from going into the restaurant world. Oops, I have a little, is that better now? We good? Okay. Producing unique sensory events through F&B, and really the last thing is about content creation. The one thing that I realized through this pandemic or this crisis we've gone through is that this is not the first time, and Shelley really covered this in the first place. In one of the most notable decades, was the first decade of the 21st century, we went through 9/11 in 2001, SARS in 2002 was actually the epicenter, mad cow bird flu, and then 2008 the Russian. And oddly enough, in that particular decade, as many sort of crises that we had to pull through, one thing that I thought through in these last few weeks was that was actually my decade of growth. It was ironically a decade where we found opportunity in different ways. And I think this is where we are today as sort of people in this industry, trying to find a unique way to recreate ourselves. And I think being someone, and Dolly talks about this, whether it's your online brand, but your brand in person, is really, really important to have those ideas to recreate yourself in times where you don't believe you're going to be able to. And I can tell you from a mental state, it's okay to be in a time where you feel you're vulnerable. And this is a real vulnerable time for many of us. What I can say that in my first 22 years when we went through this crisis, I was lucky enough to have employers that kept me employed. And so I was able to work through those times. Perspective, when I decided to leave my corporate career 2 years ago to start my own company, I can say that I've learned because I probably myself was not prepared for what happened in these last weeks. And so I know we don't want to overuse the word pivot, but we have to take a look at ourselves and our businesses to see how we could shift, because I am my own employer now. My core business have all shuttered because of what's happened right now. And so it's hard to say that it's a silver lining, but we are all essentially in this together, and many of us are suffering in the same way. And I can tell you from a restaurant perspective in hospitality up in Canada, half of the jobs that were lost in the last 4 weeks, 50% of them come from the industry that I'm in, which is the restaurant business. My restaurants are not open. So I am relegated to my computer and trying to find how I can create experiences and content through forums like this. And part of it is creating a brand. I think through the years, what I've learned is creating a brand is really unique in itself and how you want to create that brand. You can, in your career, find a way in any stream of how you want to do it. And whatever you want to do, what I think the most important thing is you want to do it authentically. And as Dolly had mentioned, intentionally. Your brand is an intention and an extension of who you are. I can go back to thinking about how I met each one of our last two speakers. Shelley Williams, who I've known for nearly 20 years and is a mentor of mine and opened many doors for me. And not only has she opened doors for me, she has also become one of my dear clients through the years, who has always supported me. in our earlier days in chapter events in Toronto, when I was a young professional standing in a room afraid to approach people that I thought were stars in this industry. And every now and then you need to find that one person that can. In terms of how I met Courtney, you'll have to correct me if I believe we met in Orlando in 2001 at a conference. And she had just been a recipient of a Rising Star Award. And I was a big fan just in hearing her speech alone. And little did I know, a couple of days later, she approached me and we struck up a conversation about our different paths and what path she was taking in this industry and what path I was taking. And a couple months later, I got a call out of the blue, and she asked me if I could mentor her, which was, you know, to be a mentor in a capacity the way Courtney asked me was very, not only was a very thoughtful thing, but it was a humbling moment for me. And what I was able to find a relationship with someone in the industry that when you want to become a mentor or a mentee, the most important thing is to be able to find two-way learning. And say that I have learned as much from me, and that's really, really important. And then I look at Leah, who I think we met virtually online. It was either through Twitter or Instagram, and eventually we ended up at a conference on the same docket of speakers. And every time I run into her, we embrace, and there's this ray of sunshine and brightness that we share stories, and every time we reconnect, it's the same thing, whether it's online or in person. And so these relationships are three streams that I believe that you have to invest regardless what avenue you're taking. You must invest in people. So whether you are in that position to be with people or hire people, you must invest in them. And the companies that are doing that today are going to shine through when this is over. The next is you have to invest in relationships. I was always on this journey of relationships and remembering those that I've met through the years, that for the good or for the worse, had a way, those that opened doors shaped my careers, and those that did not give me the opportunities shaped my careers. But I treated them equally, because what I always say is the bridge you take to success will also be the bridge that you will need to cross on your way down. And so in a way, being in the industry for 25 years, working corporate on the supplier side, I've had a moment I was on my way down, but I had self. And part of recreating myself was to do things that was completely uncomfortable in many ways. I still get questions about why I left an executive job that I, you know, worked my entire career to get to, but I followed my heart and my passion to creativity and creating experiences in a way that I wanted to create for people. And I wanted to be my own boss. And yes, build a business that was growing, and I believe stunted. I don't believe it is gone. I just believe that I've now been forced to find a way, instinctually as humans, to find a way to survive. And I think we'll all survive through this. It's sad in a way that we are calling this in a way of correction, but in many ways, the correction will show us mistakes that we have made, and we have made a lot of mistakes as North Americans, I will say, but we've also figured out many ways and advantages that we've made realize, particularly as humans, and how we've connected. And this thing that shows that human connection is really one of the most important and vital things. I want you to ensure that we stay connected. And staying connected is not necessarily just pressing the follow button and hoping your other counterpart follows you. It's about being connected and being interactive ways. I always say to people that I meet, whether young, old, or exchanging business cards the old school way, is having a discussion beyond the time we met is really important. And yes, so today you can send me a DM. Back in the day, we'd actually pick up the phone and call people. And what I found is we have now, through the crisis of what we've gone through, found a way to many different ways. Luckily for us, we have very many tools. We have Zoom, we have FaceTime, we have all these other things that we can do that which we didn't have when I went through the first two crises in the first decade of the 21st century. And so it's no excuse for us to not stop connecting, because the connections you make now and the brand you build now will inevitably be the brand that you show when you meet in person, right? So I think one of the things as we go through this is when you build a brand, eventually one day you will have the opportunity to make decisions that are embedded in your brain and your heart that you want to make. And sometimes you think about those crazy ideas. And I've always considered myself, when I worked in corporate, was the person that sat at the table that had the craziest ideas. And when I tell people this story about how being the one crazy at the table, all you're really doing is trying to find that one person that'll latch on with you. The rest of them are probably looking at you in a way like, I don't believe that idea will ever happen. But what I can tell you is that in the environment that we are in today, I look at the companies who have said no to me many times before because they believe in the traditional method of way they've done business. But what we found now is that businesses, individuals like us, are looking for new content and innovative and ingenious ways to keep their brand out there. Now is the time that they're looking for a little bit of craziness. You know, a little what things we have not done before, because the traditional way that we're doing business doesn't work right now because we are not in a normal environment anymore. We're in a virtual environment. And for me, I take a look at when I moved from sitting in a corporate boardroom running hundreds of events a year in a large convention or casinos and moving into the space of opening restaurants. But from the restaurant side, looking to diversify and connect with how the things that I learned in the first 22 years of my life can be adapted to restaurant world. I started creating event experiences through sensory and food and beverage and chef inspired events. What has that taught me? That has taught me that creating content around food and the five senses is really important. And we see that it's connected between all of us today. What do we see the most of online, particularly on Instagram and Facebook? Everyone is cooking, everyone is baked. We love food. And so haphazardly, by accident, the food industry that I grew up in, because I grew up as a restaurant brat in the northern side of Toronto, has really followed me throughout my career. And I started on the food side, being in catering, eventually getting into overall operations and sales within the event industry. But it brought me back to food, but food has now also brought me back to events. So they've interconnected. And through connections I've made, what I really found was content creation was important. When I was 45 and I left my industry, I thought, if I didn't do this change now, when will I do the change? So for you that are students that are graduating, think of this as just an moment where you have to go over a hurdle or go through that fork. Because if people like myself can make the biggest career change at the age of 45 on my own, not knowing what was on the other side, not knowing that the pandemic was coming when business was growing at the pace that I thought it wasn't going to grow, you too will be able to get there. Prepare yourself in many ways. And one is making sure that your brand is intact and your brand is consistent and your brand is authentic and that you stay in front of people. Like Dahlia said, content is queen. King, but I always say queen because some of the best content out there is the content that I follow from other people. So we have to make these corrections and we have to make sure that whatever you do, like I said, you must stay authentic and intentional. We have to ride the wave of the common denominator, but the cream that rises to the top will always stand out. For us that like to fill voids, we will fill voids with things that we are passionate about because there are voids in the industry right now, and we need to find those voids and fill them. I think that where we are today is just a blip in the screen. Never minimize your role in whatever job you do, whether you are an intern, a student, someone starting off as a coordinator or a CEO. Never minimize your role because whatever you are in that chain, you are an integral link. So remember that. That will always stick with you forever. And I think it's really important. I see Courtney popping up on my screen, so I'm getting the cue. And what I do want to do is, I want to leave you with a couple of anecdotal quotes. I'm a hip hop guy. I'm also a sneakerhead. So I want to show you that, yes, I did put pomade on my hair today and I put on a jacket. But today I decided to put on sneakers and I haven't put on sneakers in a while. So because we just passed the holiday Eastern season, I want to show you my New Balances because they're really funky and they make me happy. So if you're a sneakerhead, tell me what sneakers you like. But I do want to share a couple of quotes with you, okay? One is, if you're scared to take chances, you'll never have the answers. And as a hip hop guy who grew up to old school hip hop, we always have the ongoing debate of who the greatest hip hop artist was. And there's always a debate between Nas and Jay-Z. That was from Nas. Remind yourself, nobody's built like you. You design yourself. And that was from Jay-Z. So I thought I'd take a quote from either one of them. But because I'm a food guy and I've built my career really around food, I want to share this one quote to you, which is about food, but I believe is relatable in all parts of life. Always serve too much hot fudge sauce on hot fudge sundaes. It makes people overjoyed and puts them in your debt. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to share this forum, to share my story, and stay connected. I would love to connect with you on any platform, Instagram, Facebook. I'm not on TikTok yet. I think my dancing days are gone, but maybe I'll give that a shot sometime. But be friends, be unique, keep authentic, keep your brand, and keep talking, because we will get out of this together, and there will be a new day tomorrow, and we will find new ways to thrive together again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trevor. And I'm so glad that you brought in some of your personal swag with your, and there's the coffee mug. The hustle never dies. You guys, I'm telling you, Trevor is one of the coolest people that I know. And I say that with 100% certainty. So I appreciate you bringing up the sneakers, the hip hop, even the hot fudge. There actually was a question that was put into the chat box. You guys make sure you use the Q&A box, but it was put into the chat box, and I'm only going to take it because it's so critical. And this question was, Tupac or Biggie?
Biggie for me. Well, let me rephrase that. I grew up to Biggie because I'm an East Coast guy, and maybe many people don't know this, but Tupac is actually from New York, but made his career on the West Coast. But I will say that my appreciation for Tupac really grew after his death as I started listening to his lyrics. But I am a Biggie guy at heart for sure.
Well, now you know, audience. Now you know. Trevor, if we can jump into a few questions here. We had some really good ones that came in from the audience, and I'll start with Elizabeth Sofa's question. She said, and I get this question all the time too, how and when should you ask someone to mentor you?
Thank you for the question, Elizabeth. I don't think there's a right and wrong time. I think your heart will know. I think that if there's a misstep in my career, is that I didn't seek a mentor earlier in my career. And I think that I almost accidentally fell into mentorship with the bosses that I had through the years. And a lot of times, accidentally, we get mentored by people. And Shelly is a perfect person that can say, you know, she's been a great mentor to me through the years, and she still is. And even from a perspective, you know, Courtney has become a mentor for me because Courtney is connected to a generation that I wasn't necessarily connected to. And I found ways and learned through Courtney on how to communicate. And so there is no right and wrong time. And, you know, they always said the only thing that you can get from an answer that you could hear that you won't know is the answer is no. So you ask again, and there'll be someone else there waiting for you.
Yeah, that's very true. What's the worst that can happen? So we had a question that came in from Rosemary, and she asked, when searching for mentors, is it important to look outside your industry as well as inside of it, or just focus on those individuals who are where you want to be?
Listen, I'm very passionate about this particular topic, and I think through just the basis of being in an industry and all the friends and colleagues I've made, I just connected with people in this industry. But as I broaden this and I look at a lot of my colleagues, people that I grew up with, they have found mentors outside of this realm. Because I think really it's important is mentorship is not necessarily just about work skills. It is about life skills. It is about the experiences that we all struggle with, that we will need help at those moments the most. I think that if you talk about, let's just say the event industry, technically there are a lot of event people, but mentally and from wholeheartedly, can you find the person that can connect with you, who has had life experiences, who can help you in those moments of life that you need help most?
That's a great answer. And I'm seeing in the chat box that, so we have a variety in our audience today where people are students, they're graduates, you know, young professionals, but they're also people who have been in the industry for a while or are joining the industry a little later in life. So we've got some comments here saying how appreciative they are that it's not too late to find a mentor, even if you have been around the block for a number of years compared to maybe someone who's just starting the industry. The next question I have comes from Nicole, and Nicole asks, what do you believe will be your greatest challenge in opening your restaurants once again?
And I think this will be different in many environments depending on the rules and regulations that are mandated by our governments in terms of social distancing. The issues we have right now in existence is, you know, there's a lot of data out there, and there's a lot of true data, particularly in Canada right now. 10% of the restaurants who had to close because of the mandated closures have closed permanently. Many of us will not make next month's rent because we are not a heavily liquid business. We are only liquid when business is running, and we have payroll and taxes and rent to pay. There is discussions that the mandate will be, let's allow restaurants to reopen, but with social distancing rules in place, which means if you're a 100-seat restaurant, they're gonna want you to do 50-seat restaurants. Well, the reality is taxes and rent will not be 50%. And so we need to figure out, and this is what I'm trying to figure out now in creating a new business model, is I believe that the takeout business is going to continue to flourish, but it will be based on those who can really diversify and create a model that is online friendly. So merchant services online will, I believe, define those people. And so you can maybe open a restaurant with a much smaller space and less seating, but diversify how you're going to push those meals out. And I believe the way we sell meals and the format of our meals will change also. So those are things we're looking at right now.
So that's actually the perfect segue into the next question. And thank you, Jeffrey. You asked a question about capacity too. So I think Trevor answered that there. Alex asked, how do you see corporate events changing, specifically meals and the buffet service and the way that it's structured currently or was structured?
Well, it's funny because just before the pandemic was announced, a week prior, I was speaking at a conference on a topic around food and beverage at events. And I've been focusing a lot on things like trying to significantly reduce food waste, because we're really good at that in this industry. We're in upwards of 40% food waste for a lot of our events. When I say food waste, things that are actually untouched, we throw away at events that we buy. One is focusing on how we fuel our events through food as opposed to necessity. So I think we're going to look at this as a new economy to shift the way we order our food and shift the way we're going to really rely on local. But the bigger thing is we're going to take a look at, I think the days of buffets will be gone for a while, because we're not going to have food out in the open anymore. I think we're going to move to a lot of things like boxed meals. And I'm not sure about, you know, mass seated dining for a bit. I think corporate events will have to shift for a bit. I think the way we meet is going to change a bit, but there's still going to be a need. You still have to eat. We're just going to find different ways. And I want to go back to this about, you know, Shelley talked about, were we dirty in the first place? The one thing I know that from the food side is that we are heavily mandated by public health. Maybe some institutions not as adherent as others, but we are put to the highest level when it comes to public safety. And so we already have those tools in place. We're just going to have to extend them from back of house to the front of house. And so perhaps the shift is going to be a little bit different, but the one impediment that I see is going to be the cost behind it. Because the cost to bring in PPE for restaurants to take on as an additional expense will just hit our bottom line as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Trevor. So we probably only have time for one more question. And that question goes to Alec Williams. Alec asked, he said, I'm a huge believer in this story. I think it's so crucial to understand and learn from people's experiences and growth. As an individual who's looking for a mentor, should you look for a mentor that has a similar story, or find a mentor with a contrasting story to gain a different perspective? So let's take it a little political. Even if let's say you're looking for a mentor and you really like somebody, but they've got completely different political views, does that stop you from pursuing a mentorship relationship with that person?
There's nothing that says that you can't have more than one mentor, right? And perhaps you need to find people that can help you in different streams. You know, we are not all going to have the same beliefs in anything, whether it's hip hop, sneakers, sporting teams, or politics. I think one thing that we should stay clear of right now is we should stop politicizing everything, because what we're going through is a human issue right now. You know, human connection is the most important thing. And I think that if you're able to make a connection who has differences, that is a greater achievement, I believe, than finding connection with someone that you're already compatible with. It's very much the same as dating, right? Opposites attract sometimes. And so we need to learn from each other through our differences.
Oh, that's such a good answer and such a great way to close. Trevor, final question, and I have to ask because it's another one of those pineapple belong on pizza type of questions. Cilantro, yes or no?
Team cilantro, it's not soapy for me. I will put cilantro on everything.
Me too. I don't taste the soap thing, so I'm with you on that. Again, thank you so much for being here today, Trevor. It was, of course, a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to hear from you. And I personally can't wait to buy your cookbook when it comes out in the fall. So you guys should all follow Trevor Louie and connect with him on all social media channels and get his cookbook because it's going to be dope. It's going to be great. Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, audience. Well, we are almost at the end of our day here. We have one closing speaker to end our virtual conference today. So I am going to ask for Natalia Roblero to unmute herself and to join us on video. Natalia, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can. And we can see you too. It's great to see you, Natalia.
Great to see you too. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. And just so you know, audience, Natalia Roblero is actually joining us from San Jose, Costa Rica today. So Natalia, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself in Spanish because I love hearing you speak Spanish. It's so beautiful. And then I'll go into your introduction.
Okay, perfect. Bueno, hola a todos. Espero que estén excelentemente bien de salud, sus familias. Gracias a todos por acompañarnos. Mi nombre es Natalia Roblero. Los saludo desde Costa Rica y les voy a comentar un poco de cómo vamos a mantenernos motivados en esta situación que definitivamente le dio una vuelta inesperada a nuestra industria. Gracias, Courtney, por tenerme aquí. Estoy muy emocionada.
Oh, de nada. It's so good to have you here, Natalia. And if we have any other Spanish speakers, feel free to say hola in the chat box. And please give Natalia a very, very warm welcome. So Natalia was born and raised in Costa Rica, and she dedicated her 10-year professional experience in the hospitality and tourism industry. After emerging in her first job as a group coordinator at Four Seasons Resort Costa Rica, she continued her career in the incentive travel industry. Natalia is now the Business Development Manager at Memorable Incentives DMC, a high-end destination management company that handles the event planning for corporate and incentive groups traveling to Costa Rica and Panama, with one main goal: to create unique memories. She is also the Young Leaders Coordinator and Director of Education at the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence Central America chapter. When she's not working, Natalia cherishes time with her 5-year-old daughter Mila and other family members. Dancing, traveling, reading, and learning something new every day is what Natalia strives for. I believe knowledge, even the smallest things, will eventually help you in your life and even encourage others in the least expected situations. Learning and sharing knowledge will always be a part of your human growth, and that's what Natalia believes. The best piece of advice that she's ever received is that her mother's always been a believer of the Indian proverb, if your problem has a solution, why worry about it? Now, if your problem does not have a solution, why worry about it? Natalia, it's so great to have you here, and I think you have some slides to share today. So if you want to go ahead and click on the share button at the bottom of your screen and pull up that window, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for the warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here. I still can't believe a couple of weeks from now that we were speaking. I just got so excited. This is like a sweep of fresh air for me to be sharing this with such a nice community. I'm so excited to share with students with whom I identify myself so much. So thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Courtney, again. I'm happy to be joining forces again with you. When I met Courtney last September, it just has been a whirlwind of opportunities that we together have been able to experience. So I'm so happy to be sharing this with you again. And thank you also to the amazing panelists that were here. So I'm so excited to be wrapping up a little bit. And mainly, I want to focus and focus basically two main fundamentals that I believe the first one is basically impossible to ignore, and I'll make sure to share my screen eventually when I have a few pictures to show you, to share my story. But first of all, the change of the industry and our lives as the result of the COVID-19 pandemic, like everything that has brought to us, and how our lives literally changed from one day to the other, even if we're students, even if we already have a small or young career in this industry, or even if we have all of our lives living and working on this industry, it has been quite unexpected for every one of us and many other industries as well. So I will make sure to dig into this a little bit further afterwards. And the other point that I would love to transmit is that some aspects of my professional life have somehow positioned me as at a young age in a leadership role within the Costa Rican tourism industry. So I would like to share my experience, more than tips and tricks, just like my experience overall and what made me feel confident during difficult times that we are now going through again, and mainly how to stay motivated during these times. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen really quick. Many of you may know what a DMC is, Destination Management Company. So basically, destination management companies take care of, we're like the one-stop shop. We are like the go-to person, the go-to contact, the go-to company when you're bringing a corporate incentive, non-cash reward trip abroad from your original country, or even inside the country. You know that incentive travel is very common as well and popular in the United States. But I started in the world of the DMCs a few years ago already. Before, as Courtney mentioned, my background was in hospitality management, and that is where I got my bachelor's degree. And I did study, well, I began in the hospitality fields in about 2010, 2011. So almost 10 years ago, yes. And Four Seasons was a great school for me. It's a very well-known luxury brand, and they really taught me so well. It was a great school. I learned so much as a group coordinator for that branch in the area of reservations, and it actually helped connect with what I do now a lot. So I would remember that I would see all these incentive groups coming in to the hotel, and I would take care of several VIP profiles, amenities, and anything that had to do with the special touches of what the groups would have involved in their operation while they were in Costa Rica. And it really woke up my bug of what customer service is, and just the smile on your face and satisfaction that can see someone just come and say, thank you so much for what you've created. So the reason I took the decision of leaving the hospitality industry for a while was that while working at the Four Seasons, I got married. I became a mom. Everything happened very quickly. So I basically decided to head back to the city and have my little girl, Mila, be raised close to her grandparents and to our family and whatnot. So that's what basically had to make me make a shift from the hospitality world to the destination management companies, which, as you can see, they all go very together. They connect a lot. In a period of basically a year, I became a single mom. I did not have a job still here in the city in San Jose. So I did go through a phase, and I was 23 years old, so a pretty young person at the moment to be struggling with several things that were very important at the moment. So I came through basically a miracle that I came through and found an interview with one of the DMCs here in Costa Rica, and it was quite challenging. It actually I think it's the most challenging thing I've done as of now. And it was that basically 2 weeks after I started my new job, my boss she basically left on vacation, and she said, this, my boss at the moment, she said, this is what you have to do. This is how it works. I know you have a little bit of knowledge on what a DMC works like. And then basically, here you go. Jump into the water. We have one of the biggest events we've ever done it was what, like 4 months after that, maybe? Or 3 months actually. And the pictures that you see right now are actually real pictures of that event. And basically what my clients would always tell me is, make it magical, make it unforgettable. This is something that we have done. Incentive trips are done at least once a year for companies, so they know what magic is, they know what being inspired is, they know what wow factors are. So basically you have to be creative 24/7, 365 days a year to be able to make it. But you need to make it happen. Somehow we make it happen, and that's what makes it so nice about this industry. And not only the DMC, not only the event planning, event management, but also hospitality. As Trevor was saying, the restaurant industry as well. It just leaves so much satisfaction in people, and that's what you have to be passionate about and confident that you can always make it happen. These are pictures of the first event that I was mentioning. It was a production of almost 2 weeks. It was the first time I was far from my baby girl. She was less than a year at the moment, and I had to leave to Guanacaste, which is about 4 hours driving from here, and spend about 8 days with our clients, with 345 guests that were joining us, and they basically had 2 parallel events per day during about 6 days. It was crazy. It was something that I would think I'm not going to get through this. And it was just amazing how you do make it happen. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to trust your gut, and you have to trust the people that trust you as well. And you can definitely make it happen. So as you can see here, we were basically taking care of everything. And slot that you see on your on your left, it was a 4-meter slot made of African palm trees, dried African palm trees. And at the end, you might not be able to see it very well over here, but here it is. It was actually the stage of the D-Day during the event. This was the closing event. It was a Rainforest Magical Party. And this is as soon as we ended it, and look, it really takes a village. It's crazy how much effort so many people put into events to make them happen. This is how we ended up, all filled with neon painting. And I remember being so exhausted and so tired over here, but so proud of myself, like saying, you can really accomplish anything that you set your mind to. Now, joining SITE was a very nice experience for me. I joined SITE, it's Society for Incentive Travel Excellence, which if you haven't heard of, it's a very good society for people that work in the event, hospitality management, marketing industry. So many companies are involved with SITE nowadays. And basically it keeps you educated every day. Every week they send you such good information of people that have so many knowledge in the industry. This gives you a lot of confidence. It gives you the possibility to network even more when you travel, when you need some advice from other people. This is actually how I met my mentor, who is right here for SITE. He's the president for the SITE Central America chapter, and he has been such a good support for me. I was actually speaking to him last night, I don't know, this gave me even more confidence to not pay attention to when people tell you you're way too young to be starting in this industry, you cannot be successful in this industry because you need this and so much time to do it. And it's not about that. It's about the passion and the authenticity, as Trevor mentioned before, that you put into everything that you do. So if you want to know a little bit more about SITE, I'll be super happy to give you some more information afterwards, and I'll be happy to connect and let you know a little bit more of what this is about. But this SITE actually made me get to know Courtney. I was at the SITE Leaders Global Conference in Las Vegas in September when we met, and I heard her speak for the first time, which was absolutely amazing. But going further ahead, this was my typical day at the office. This was me going to a site inspection with clients, visiting amazing hotels. And if you see right there on top of the tree, that's me really, really scared, because sometimes you have to do things that scares you, or every time that you can. And just encouraging my clients to jump that line, because some of you know my country, and you know that we're all about nature, amazing beaches, and just having a little bit of everything right here in a little piece of paradise and land. So of course, my job was very dynamic, and all of a sudden we step into a new reality, right? My boss is going to kill me if he sees that I posted that picture over here, but it's what we have. And anyway, now I have to communicate. It's been almost 2 months that I've been home with my little girl, homeschooling. And so between homeschooling and still working, having a different pace, it just really makes your life change completely from one day to another. But we need to accept it and somehow embrace what we're going through right now. And that leads me to the next topic that I wanted to share with you, which is the new reality that we're living here in Costa Rica. I do want to share that very proudly and very gladly, although I can't say that we're safe already, but we have just as of now 681 cases confirmed as of last night, 180 people recovered, and only 6 fatalities, which we hope we can keep it as much as possible this way. However, it has been very, very strict measures that our everyone in our government has taken to be able to keep it this low. I know it is us, it is hard for the economy, it is hard for everyone that has been living through this. I'm still not used to being so much time at home after the pictures that I showed you, the trade shows that I used to attend. Everything just really changed for you from one day to the other, but it just depends on the attitude that you take it with. And I think that's what we have to do as of now. Students, I would say, and me, that I try to always currently keep studying, we have an advantage, and that is that we have so much ahead. We are living in such a right now, and we don't know what the future will bring us, but it just depends on the attitude that we will take it with. As Trevor mentioned, authenticity. Be authentic in every step of the way, because this will take you so much further. This will make the people be confident about you. So always remember to be yourself wherever you are. If it's a new interview, just go and be yourself, be passionate, talk about your passions and what's leading you to, or what led you to study what you're studying right now, and what encouraged you to get into such a beautiful career that you're on. And I believe this is one of the most important moments to empathize and to be the sweetest people you can ever be to everyone that you get to meet nowadays. If you are about to graduate, be good to your peers, be good to your classmates, always stay positive about what's going on. And also, if you are already starting your career, be as empathetic and sweet as possible as you can, because right now we are not being able to have contact with people. We cannot hug each other, we cannot even shake hands, and this is going to be for quite a while now. We don't know when everything is going back to normal, but we do know that it's not going to be as it was before. So just start thinking of new ideas, new resources, new tools. And I want to include myself as a young person, but us young people, we have the opportunity to innovate. We have the opportunity to look for all the tools that are now given to us virtually, and that technologically, are also so amazing to use nowadays. So let's take advantage of that. Now that we have a little bit of time to breathe, let's count our resources as well, and just try to be a little more dynamic in what we're looking for. So one of the most important things that I do want to tell you is that do not feel like you're regretting where you are right now, do not feel that your plan was a bad plan, or not even your objective. Like right now, I might feel that I was looking for a goal or looking for this amazing waterfall that we're always looking towards, and suddenly you find yourself just dumped in a muddy swamp that you basically don't see how to get out of right now. But you just need to take a moment to breathe and learn that this is a lesson for all of us as humanity. And this is a lesson for all of us as individuals. So keep believing in the strategy that you had, because for some reason you did have it. And again, it doesn't mean that your strategy, if it's being kind of trolled right now, it doesn't mean that it has to be completely affected by the circumstances. So just make sure you keep close to positive people. Stay positive yourself. Call your teammates. Talk to them. Talk to the people that are going to be with you together, rising up this industry, rebuilding everything, because the show must go on, right? Like we will meet again. We will stay together again, not only in our industry, but many other industries. Fashion industries, they cannot live without trade shows. You need to, I don't know, it's just not going to be the same thing to have, for example, 50 virtual stands where everybody's going to visit and just feel the same thing. So I'm sure that cruise ships will be filled up again. Vegas exhibitions will go on, and they'll keep on happening, and we will be together again. And hospitality actually, I believe, has a very good advantage in this, because it will rise much faster than maybe the meetings and incentives or events industry. Why? Because of course everyone will want to travel eventually. So imagine the hotels in Miami, they're going to be packed. Imagine how many job opportunities you will have, and hopefully in the near future. So remember, right now it's all about flexibility, innovation, and fresh ideas. I just figured I had a typo in my presentation. Sorry about that, but Courtney's there, so I guess it's my time to stop again and take a deep breath. And this is what I recommend you to do as well. If we're creating a legacy, we definitely can't just sit back and feel sorry, and just let's get energy from wherever we can and stay positive as much as possible, because this will definitely go through. And hopefully the worst has already passed. And if not, let's embrace also the suffering. Let's learn how to go through suffering, embrace it. Not everything is colors and wonderlands, and it's not the way it goes. So let's go ahead and embrace this, and keeping strong and keeping together, and just having faith in our young leaders that will eventually come in and rebuild the industry.
Thank you so much, Natalia. I was seeing in the chat box that people were commenting on how nice it is to hear such an uplifting and positive and hopeful message, because I think as our whole community goes through this time, people are searching for that hope, and they're trying to be positive, but sometimes you have days where you struggle with being positive or being optimistic. So people really appreciate that. And people are saying pura vida, by the way. Yes, pura vida. So we did have some.
Hopefully you can come to Costa Rica soon. I would love that. And let me know, and I will meet you here. Promise.
Yes, I'm coming back. So we did have some questions come in from the audience, and audience, please go in and add your questions now. You can upvote by clicking on the thumbs up icon, and we will answer the most popular questions first. So the first question that we have, Natalia, is large events with large group settings. So like festivals, weddings, concerts, those types of events have been greatly affected by the pandemic. How do you think they will be able to recover from it, since social distancing is so important right now?
You know, I think, and as I mentioned, probably some of the branches of the industry will recover faster than the meetings, incentives. The MICE segment in general, it will take a little longer to recover, and that I do agree. I would say the sanitary practices that we have been learning, because it's amazing how we literally have had to learn to wash our hands that will definitely be helping a lot, and hopefully learning to when this curve and this climax of everything that's going on leads to a little more calm sense of everything that's happening. I believe all the sanitary practices that we will probably already do it by inertia. I just completely forgot that word, but like naturally we were going to apply so many more sanitary habits that will probably help a lot during the big events and weddings and big conventions actually. So I believe that will be one of the most important factors to have very present during the events, but I'm pretty sure many more ideas will come out that will keep us together as well, because that definitely will happen again, and I wouldn't say it's long enough until those events are able to happen. So
yeah, I agree, Natalia, and I think it's just a matter of time for things to come back to normal, but for precautions to still take place for those large events. The next question that we have is about sustainability, and I know Costa Rica does a lot in terms of sustainability. So this person's question is, tourism is an industry that puts enormous stress on both local and global environments and resources. What are ways that individuals can be more conscious and sustainable while they travel?
oh my gosh, it's so many just like little details, little things that make the difference. For example, as you can see, the use of straws. Like here in Costa Rica, straws are basically disappearing. We have the metal straws. You can even travel with your metal straw. That makes, like, that little detail makes such a difference. Also, just being conscious about where you are. If you're at a hotel, how many towels are you using a day? How many towels can you reuse a day? Just like start having that mentality, and really do read those signs that the hotels try to put, because they're doing such a good job trying to be as sustainable as possible, not only here in Costa Rica, but everywhere. So really do pay attention to the little signs that say, please turn off your light when you leave the bathroom. Please reuse your towel if you really do so, because sometimes we just get used to taking off our makeup or something with a little towel and throwing it away, and that's just not okay, right? Like, how many people do that a day in the world, and how many times are you going to wash that when you can reuse it, for example? So just little details that will definitely help you. Again, it's just a matter of making it a habit.
Yeah, I think there's so much that we can do nowadays. And you're right, a lot of things are actually becoming law. So if straws are being banned, or if there are certain recycling implementations that are being made, people want change. And so we're seeing that change, which is great. I think we have time for one or two more questions. So this question, and everybody's asking this question is, the travel industry is affected tremendously with the amount of limited travel. Do you think the tourism aspect will boom once the travel ban is lifted?
Absolutely. Once the travel ban is lifted, of course not. We do have to, probably the people will start traveling inside their own countries. And of course, we have to even support local tourism. However, I am pretty sure that, for example, in Costa Rica right now, we have zero tourism. Zero. And Costa Rica's essence and one of our economic strengths is tourism. And it has been like this for the last 10 to 12 to 13 years. So it is really a time that we are going through it day by day, but it's crazy to believe that we have no tourists right here, right now. But for example, people really do want to travel. I want to travel. I can't wait to get back on an airplane and just feel confident and happy about just my next journey. I believe it will take time, and people are going to be very cautious. But if we stick together, and if we create innovative ways to just keep the industry together, keep promoting our destinations and keep promoting our companies, I don't see why not. It should be happening again soon. Like, we've been through difficult times before. We've been through maybe not similar, but pandemics, plagues, everything has happened before, and it hasn't stopped the world. It hasn't changed the world. And we have so many tools now that will help us get through this. That definitely, I believe that if it not comes as it was before, it will be even better.
I love that, Natalia. And I think that that's actually the perfect note to end on today. I think that your message of inspiration and your message of the power that we truly have as individuals to stay true to our authentic values and to not slow down and, you know, feel sorry for ourselves, really, to take moments that we need to allow ourselves to feel the things that we're feeling, but to get back up and to move forward, and how you've tied that back into the industry and the tourism sector and how that's exactly what's happening. You guys you're not sitting around, you're brainstorming different ways to market and to really welcome visitors when they're able to get on those planes and come back again. So I think you've left us with such an inspiring message, Natalia. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we close your session today?
Well, no, just again, like always stay true to yourself, stay true to the industry that you believe in, stay true to your passion, because as I can see over here, there's so many people that are just as passionate as I am about my job. And I am just way beyond excited of when this will get back again up on track, and I will be working again in so many creations for our guests. But for now, let's really understand that we have to take a breath. Earth has to take a breath, by the way. Happy Earth Day, that was yesterday. And just embrace what we're going through right now. Sit down, take time to think, take time to understand that this is a lesson, and this lesson won't end until every one of us as individuals understand why this happened. So let's be patient, and we will get back on. I'm completely positive about it.
Thank you so much, Natalia. It was such a pleasure having you here, and I can't wait to come visit again. Costa Rica is still one of my favorite places I've ever seen.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much. I really I look forward to having you and everyone that wants to come here. I'll be super glad to welcome you and show you around.
Wonderful. Well, take care, Natalia. Adios.
Ciao.
All right, audience, we are just a couple minutes away from the close of our virtual conference today. So I would like to first and foremost say thank you so much for taking time to attend and engage and ask those really important questions of the amazing speakers that we've had today. I personally have had a wonderful experience as your event MC and in designing this entire program for you. So thank you to Grand Valley for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to pass the torch to Miss Lorie Tuma to say a few closing words to end our conference today. So over to you, Lorie.
Oh, Courtney, this was so much fun. Hi, you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed that. What a day. This was really impactful. I hope you came away with some creative strategies for yourself personally and professionally. Shelley, Dahlia, Trevor, and Natalia, I can see why Courtney invited you today and included you in the conference. I believe your words, your insight, and your encouragement have reached the masses, your time and your commitment to this event. I want to take the time to thank the Grant Selection Subcommittee of the Grand Valley State University, Pew Faculty Teaching and Learning Center for embracing the vision I had for this event and for making it possible for us to reach not only GVSU students, but industry professionals throughout the country and beyond. Thank you, Scott, our Associate Dean, Victoria Stubbs, fellow faculty members. Your support through this process has been incredible, and this would not be possible if you had me with the autonomy and encouragement to proceed. I want to thank my mom for joining me today. She's sitting over here to my right, and she's been with me for the last 3 hours, so thanks, Mom. I just also want to thank Courtney, you specifically, our project director. You've created this experience, and you're the person that I continue to call upon long after you graduated when I need to turn an idea into a full-blown mission. You are the essence of this industry, Courtney, truly. I'm sure our guest speakers would agree with me on the fact that your professionalism, your diligence, and your commitment to this conference, your dedication to the industry, you did a great job for us. Finally, to the graduating seniors at Grand Valley State University, and to every senior at every worldwide that tuned in today and joined us. Congratulations. There will come a day very soon when you can officially celebrate. So please know, until then, we, faculty, staff, and administration at Grand Valley State University, we're throwing our hats in the air virtually, and we are collectively sending you the message, well done. Take care, everyone, and thanks again.
Ben got into nursing school today. How great is that?
But our task is to participate in the process.
That's cool!
We will invest in and build together a Laker Lifetime Learning Account for all Laker graduates. The best of us connected with each other in a shared experience. That's the Laker effect. That is Grand Valley State University.